2 p.m. It is Tuesday, February 21st. I'm going to call this special City Council meeting to order. Would the City Secretary please call the roll?
Mitchell.
Here.
Tobias.
Here.
Heiser. Flores Kale. Here. Zuniga. Here. Bradshaw. Here. Parsley. Here.
All right, 6 members present. We have a quorum. Next up, citizen comments. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak? Seeing none, I'm going to close citizen comments. It's now closed. Next up, executive session. I guess I was last, so I'll read it out. Pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, City Council reserves the right to convene to executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting. City Council may convene to executive session pursuant to any lawful exception contained in Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, including any or all of the following topics: pending or contemplated litigation, or to seek the advice of the city attorney and attorneys concerning legal issues pursuant to Section 551.071 Texas Government Code and Section 105 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct for the following matters: Reinvestment Zone Number 2, Reinvestment Zone Number 4, 104 South Burleson, and convene into executive session pursuant to Section 551.087 Texas Government Code to deliberate regarding the offer of economic incentives to one or more business prospects that the city seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the city. Project Two-Step, Project Water Wheel, Project Geopet, Project Good Neighbor. Thank you. Call this meeting back to order. There was no action taken during executive session. There will be no action taken now. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned. And now I'll call in our regularly scheduled meeting. Good evening. The time is 7:09 p.m. It is Tuesday, February the 21st, and I'm going to call this regular City Council meeting to order. Would all please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the City Secretary please call the roll?
Mitchell.
Here.
Tobias.
Present.
Heiser. Flores Kale.
Here.
Zuniga.
Here.
Bradshaw. Here. Parsley.
Here.
All right, 6 members present. We have a quorum. I did hear from Councilmember Heiser earlier today. He called very, very sick and apologized that he couldn't make it. I would like to make a motion to excuse his absence.
Second.
Motion by the mayor, second by Councilmember Parsley. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries 6-0. Next up, approval of the minutes.
Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes for special meeting on February the 7th, a regular meeting on the same day, February 7th, 2023, and the City Council workshop meeting from February the 13th, 2023.
Second.
All right, motion by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember Parsley that we approve the minutes. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. All right, next up, citizen comments period. At this time, we ask anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item to please do so. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and that you direct those comments to the mayor and council. We also ask that you fill out a citizen comments form and submit that to either myself or the city secretary. I have a few folks that are already registered to speak. First up, Rick Colfum.
Mayor, council members, my name's Rick Coleman. I'm a businessman and a landowner here in the city of Kyle at my properties at Yarrington Road and I-35. I'd like to talk about a problem that I've had, and I've brought it up to the city council before. I have property owners around me that are trying to divert their water onto my property. And I've sent them out, my attorney has sent them out a cease and desist, which they have paid no attention to. So I just want to bring it up to you that they have done this. They have not followed up on it. So I was going to just so Dr. Zuniga understands what happens in the past, I'd just like to kind of go over it. back in December 15th of 2020. You had a meeting and you passed a item that allowed a diversion berm from the Limestone Creek property to divert water onto my property, and which is against the law, and the codes in the package that I asked the secretary to give to y'all. Every bit of this is in there. And then at that meeting, your city manager at the time talked about building these 3 berms. And the whole idea behind it was that they would build a berm on the north side of Quail Ridge. They build the Quail Ridge berm, which would be on the east side. And then east of that, they would build the LaSalle berm. And according to his words, you would funnel the water down onto the Coleman's property. We sent out a cease and desist order, and like I said, they haven't followed it. They have plans. They have plans here. Their plans show that it is a diversion berm, and again, to divert water onto my property. And then that diversion berm is now built without the Quail Ridge berm being built. And I'm afraid that my property is going to be flooded and Quail Ridge is going to be flooded. They were supposed to have an opening, even though it's an illegal berm, they were supposed to have an opening in it that was 60 foot wide. And 2 days ago, I went out there and I saw it. It was about 10 foot wide, and it was higher than their original ground. And I just caught one of their guys and I said, you need to take this down to at least ground level, because if it rains, you will flood out Quail Ridge. And the whole idea of building these berms was to protect Quail Ridge from flooding. I put
Mr.
in
Coleman,
this
that's your 3 minutes. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, well, I put in this package a thing from the Hayes County Free Press that a mayor wrote, and it's real easy to follow.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. All right, next up, Lisa Crane.
Hello, council members. Thank you so much for letting me speak today. Kyle hockey has grown in the last few years. I don't know that if 7 years ago I would have encouraged Ash for his wish for an outdoor hockey rink if I had known it was going to get this big. Every season, it just keeps getting bigger. One of the biggest draws is our sense of community. We strive to make the city of Kyle proud of us by being inclusive, and we are trying to bring folks from all over the state of Texas to play in our little town to give back to the residents and businesses that have helped made the Ash Pavilion possible. On February 11th, we had a Hockey for Hearts fundraiser to support research for congenital heart defects. We had teams from Dallas, McAllen, and Kilgore travel just to play for 1 day of hockey. While they were here, there was roughly 35 hotel rooms booked locally, 20 youths and their family went to Evo, players enjoyed Summer Moon, Texas Pie Company, and Center Field, just to name some of the few places that I know that our out-of-town guests visited. There is close to 1,000 people on our Facebook pages that are following what we are doing here in the city of Kyle. We have started monthly meetings with over 10 REICs from all over the state to collaborate on how to grow our programs and bring to our cities with more tournaments. Our adult program is growing to the point where we will need 2 divisions with separate leagues due to the number of folks wanting to play. Most of the players don't even live in the city of Kyle, but they travel here each week to play. The Amateur Athletics Union is sending out one of the top refs in the nation to host training for referees from all over the state here in Kyle. The sport court that the city is voting on tonight will elevate the rink to bring it closer to a national destination for hockey tournaments. The sport court is consistent with tournament rinks from around the country. To put this into perspective, the Wish Cup is a week-long national tournament in the city of Nashville. Roughly 40 teams come out and play in their outdoor rink. Kyle Hockey's goal is to have our Hockey for Hearts fundraiser be that big, and the sport court will help us get there. bring more revenue to the local businesses, and put Kyle on the map for a hockey destination. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you. All right, next up, Ash Cray.
Hello, council members. Thank you for letting me speak today. 2 years ago, the hockey community did not know about Kyle, Texas. They've never heard of it, and they've never had any plans of visiting it. Over the past 2 years, people from Mexico, Houston, Dallas, McAllen, Denton, and Kilgore have come to know where Kyle is to play hockey. But the best part is we are centrally located, and we are continuing to get our name out there. Adding sport court will solidify our name in the hockey community. Thank you for always supporting my Make-A-Wish, and I hope that you guys vote yes for the sport court so we can help more people know how great the city of Kyle is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice suit, by the way. All right, next up, Alex Guerra.
Mayor and Council, good evening. My name is Alex Guerra. During the November election in 2020, several propositions were on the ballot for citizens to vote on. One of the propositions was Proposition F, about establishing a police oversight committee. The proposition stated in part, to provide for City Council to establish a committee with oversight over standard operating policies and strategies, data sharing, and use of resources of the police department for the purpose of promoting public safety, transparency, and crime reduction through community policing models. That proposition passed with over 76% of the vote in favor. Over 12,000 residents supported establishing a police oversight committee. But somehow it's been 840 days since that election, we still do not have a police oversight committee. Proposition A on the same ballot was to borrow $37 million for the Public Safety Center. Proposition A passed with only 55% majority, yet the groundbreaking for the Public Safety Center took place less than a year after the election. City Council has allowed this proposition to be forgotten, and this must be rectified. For those who are unaware, the Kyle Law Enforcement Association has a political action committee. The Kyle Law Enforcement PAC strongly opposed Proposition F in 2020, and despite the overwhelming support by voters, the Kyle Law Enforcement Association has since gotten their way because no action has been taken by the City Council to move forward on Prop F. It has become more and more apparent that the Kyle Law Enforcement Association PAC has too much political sway in our city. Each election, candidates running for City Council fear losing their endorsement, and in the end, this has resulted in poor leadership. You have been elected to represent the citizens, not the interests of a political action committee. The citizens of Kyle expected you to establish a police oversight committee years ago. It is time you make good on that expectation. The Police Oversight Committee needs to be established, and that committee cannot simply be for show, but must have actual oversight and the ability to fulfill the wording of Prop F. There must be oversight over standard operating policies and procedures or strategies, oversight over data sharing, oversight over the use of resources. Thank you for your time. I expect to see this item on the next agenda, and I hope you will take action soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Stu Hoyt.
Mayor and City Council, I thank you for the opportunity to be part of this auspicious occasion, and I dressed accordingly. I know due to your busy schedule, it was not possible to make the official presentation, but I would like to share with you and the audience the need for recognizing February 22nd as George Washington's birthday. George Washington dedicated 35 years of his life or more to creating this great nation, first starting as Commander-in-Chief of the Army. Then he was President of the Constitutional Congress, and then he was asked to be President of the United States twice. He set precedents that presidents today are using. It is only right that we honor George Washington with a special day. But the citizens won out. And in July of 1968, the U.S. Congress passed a law allowing a wonderful thing called a 3-day weekend. It's officially known as the Unified Mondays Holiday Act. What it did was it set George Washington and his birthday into historical oblivion, never to be recognized. In fact, what we call the President's Weekend is the 15th through the 21st, never on the 22nd or the 12th for Abraham Lincoln. There are 7 states now that recognize George Washington's birthday. Texas is not one of them. But I want to say thank you for taking your time to get this proclamation set forth. Let's not forget George Washington. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hoyt. That is all the citizen comments that I have in front of me. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward and speak on any item? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close citizen comments. It's now closed. Next up is agenda order. Does anybody have any items they wish to move around on the agenda? Councilmember Tobias.
If I could see if we can get agenda item number 41. It's the recap on the ice storm response.
Councilmember Parsley.
27, please.
You want to, what do you want to do with 27?
Can we move it up, please?
Okay. Does anybody else have any other items they want to move forward? I think 27 is pretty high. It's just after presentations, so, and the AKIN GUMP, which is a presentation, so. I could see the 41, but I've kind of felt like 27 was in a pretty good spot, fairly well elevated.
That's fine.
All right. Any other items? All right. Next up is agenda item number 5, presentation of the Police Department's 2022 Annual Racial Profiling Report. Chief Barnett.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jeff Barnett. I'm the Chief of Police, and I'll be brief with the item since you have a lot of the material in your backup material. The Kyle Police Department is submitting its 2022 Racial Profiling Report as required by the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. This report is required to be submitted to the governing body on or before March 1st of each year. In your packet, you'll have the following. You'll have the Kyle Police Department Racial Profiling Policy, Chapter 2.2. You'll have a copy of the Kyle Police Department Annual Statistics with our 2022 data. You'll have a memorandum from Assistant Police Chief Hernandez regarding the complaint review as required by law, and then you'll also have a memorandum from Commander Tim Griffith regarding a data analysis. As you may recall, the state of Texas enacted a law requiring certain actions on behalf of the local agency and the individual law enforcement officers when conducting traffic and pedestrian stops. The Kyle Police Department has a policy that clearly defines racial profiling and prohibits officers from engaging in racial profiling as defined by state law. And our officers are directed to capture certain types of data pertaining to those traffic and pedestrian stops or detentions with members of the public. The Kyle Police Department vehicles that routinely engage in traffic and pedestrian stops are outfitted with audio and video-worn equipment. Additionally, patrol and traffic officers are outfitted with body-worn cameras for additional recording. These videos are retained for a period of not less than 90 days as required by state law, and they're reviewed throughout the year by supervisory staff, also required. The Kyle Police Department does have a publicly promoted process by which an individual may file a complaint if the individual believes that a Kyle police officer has engaged in racial profiling. Information on that process can be obtained from a variety of sources, to include the city's webpage, the police department's webpage, the front lobby of the police department, and any member of the police department will gladly provide that. In addition, every person that receives a written citation is also provided information on how to file a complaint. And further, the Kyle Police Department did not receive any complaints pertaining to racial profiling during this reporting period as outlined by Assistant Chief Hernandez's memo. Officers that work and regularly respond to calls for service on areas in our city. They may stop a vehicle on any city street, county roadway, state highway, or even a private roadway under most circumstances. We capture all of the data that the officers encounter during those traffic and pedestrian stops. It's been provided to you in a number of documents that are attached. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and please note for the record also that our report, as required by law, has been submitted to the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Does anybody have any questions? Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, thank you, Chief, again for bringing this forward again for review. So looking at the material itself, if I'm looking at it correct, we had over 8,103 traffic stops for the year.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, and you had 448 searches,
Correct.
and 48 were consensual, while 3 of them there were based on the probable cause,
Yes, sir.
and 28 out of those ended up being an arrest.
Yes.
Okay, and then you have, of the 448 searches, 352 led to contraband. So obviously that could be weapons, drugs, and so forth, correct?
Yes, sir.
So out of those 8,103 stops and the searches, we had 0 reporting on any kind of racial profiling complaints against our officers.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
That tells you right there that you're leading a great team, sir.
Thank you.
You are respecting the community and treated them fairly, and so I applaud you on that in your team, your department for that.
Thanks, sir.
It goes to show that we are making a good investment in officers, and who, again, like I always say, when you have a police department who respects and supports its community, you will always have the community respect its officers as well. So it's very reassuring that our officers are being professional, conducting traffic stops with professionalism, and making sure that they are doing it accordingly by the law.
Yes, sir.
So thank you, sir.
Any other comments? Councilmember Flores-Kell.
Thank you. I just also want to piggyback off that. It looks like out of the stops, like more than half of them, or around half of them, were on the highway. Is that correct?
Out of those traffic stops, let me get you the numbers. Out of the 8,103 stops, that's correct. 3,526 were identified on a U.S. highway, while 967 of those were on a state highway system, which could be 150, some of our major arterial roads. Correct, yes.
Okay. I wanted to point that out because it's important that not only are you guys stopping people within the city, you're stopping them on the highway, and the numbers are still super low. So I just want to say thank you to you and your guys. This is, for me, it's a big deal, so I just want to let you guys know I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Zuniga.
Yes, I just want to repeat what other council members have said. So you had 8,000 stops, no physical force. So I really like to see that if it's not needed. And what about with communication with people that are pulled over? Do we have Spanish-speaking people who know and understand that if they are being racial profiled, they have an opportunity to make a report? So are we missing anybody in this large paintbrush?
So I think there would be several different ways in which a person of any particular language, including sign language, could make a complaint. Number one, we will accept those at any of the points that I mentioned sooner. And then also at the police department, we have a translation service that's provided to us that's accessible within a minute, 24/7. So if they come to the office in the middle of the night and they want to make that complaint, and perhaps there's not a Spanish-speaking officer available, every officer is provided with an application that they can access on their phone and immediately hand that phone over to the other individual and let them communicate their needs or their complaint or their issue. The same thing I would believe would apply at our municipal court window. So if they did receive a citation and they felt they were racially profiled when doing so, they could also make that complaint, and we would accept that at the police department, even if they reported it to our municipal court staff.
Okay. And I did enjoy the opportunity to meet some of the new hires.
Yes, sir.
And y'all did a really great job organizing and having them work out during
Thank
that period.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you, Chief.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is agenda item number 6, presentation of a plan for working with the local school swim teams and a plan for offering free pool days as requested by City Council on January 28th. Ms. Espinoza.
Mariana Espinoza, Parks and Recreation Director. Mayor and Council on January 28th, City Council directed staff to come up with a plan for working with the local school swim teams and a plan for offering free pool days. So the plan that staff came up with, as long as we're able to staff the pool to open at full capacity, which is looking very promising, is that we will offer free swim days on Mondays and Fridays during open swim hours. We will still charge for rental swim lessons and open swim on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and the weekends. So right now, we currently have 3 pool staff hired, with 10 more going through the hiring process as we speak. And we're continuing efforts to promote and hire, including 3 one-day hiring events, with the first one being tomorrow between 5 and 6:45 at the pool. Amy Garcia, our recreation manager, is here today if you have any further questions, but they are continuing to reach out to the local swim teams to inform their swim team members of job opportunities. And Amy is also working on implementing a lifeguard in training program for 14 to 15-year-olds who are looking for volunteer opportunities. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mariana. Does anybody have any questions? Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, so you're offering the open swim on Mondays and Fridays?
That's correct.
Okay, is Monday usually closed?
No, our day that we close is Wednesday.
Okay, so you can be closed in the middle of the week. So
Correct.
it'll be just Monday and Friday they have open swim.
Right.
And
So
then
anyone who couldn't go like during the weekend could come on Monday or on Friday to start the weekend.
Okay, all right, that's all I have.
Councilmember Parsley.
Thank you so much for with the plan. It's appreciated, Mariana.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. All right, next up is agenda item number 7, presentation of the 2023 Cal Fair TexTravaganza. Mariana.
Come back.
Mariana Espinoza, Parks and Recreation Director.
Claudia Rocha, Special Events Manager. May 19th through the 21st, we have a party that will knock the stink off the skunk here in Kyle. We have ribs, Ritas, and music lineup that will wear your boots out on the dance floor.
Really, Claudia? Do you mean like a Finer Than Frog Here festival?
Exactly, Mariana. You are going to want to bring your big appetite and the whole family.
My whole family?
Yes. There will be a main stage with live music and a community stage featuring our local talents. There will be food trucks, vendors, a rib and Rita contest, carnival, and fireworks.
So why did you hand me this envelope?
In the envelope holds the names of our headliner performers for the main stage along with the live entertainment. And if you would please, Mariana.
Featuring Country Night, performing live on Friday, May 19th. Up-and-coming performer Braxton Keith. CMA Texas Award winner Ken Folk. Hayes County's very own Broken Arrow. And the headliner, who stayed steady in Texas's country music Billboard's top 10, John Wolfe. On Saturday, May 20th, featuring Tejano Conjunto Music, Kyle's very own Rick Fuentes and the Brown Express, 2020 Tejano Music Award, Best New Female Artist, Monica Saldivar. 2020 Tejano Music Awards, Best New Group of the Year, Gerard Gomez y Los Conjunto Bandits. Conjunto of the Year Award winner, Ricky Naranjo. And Saturday's night headliner, 5-time Grammy Award winner, Little Joey La Familia. Closing out the event on Sunday, May 21st, featuring music from various genres, Mount Zion Baptist Church Gospel Choir, Kyle's own George Mercado, Central Texas's newest country band, featuring Grammy-nominated Art Tijerina, with Art Tijerina and the Jukebox Preachers, and our final performance of the event, internationally renowned ultimate 80s tribute band, the Spasmatics.
Yes. So wear your cowboy hat and your dancing shoes and bring your hot sauce. It's going to be one Texas-sized party here in Kyle, Texas.
Claudia, this is really great, but I still have questions about becoming a vendor, volunteering, parking.
You'll go to www.kylefair.com and you'll get all your answers right there.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Very well
Or you can
done.
ask now.
Anybody have any comments?
Can we clap? I'm so excited.
So we're actually having the Spasmatics come to Kyle. If anybody hasn't seen them, they're awesome.
Yeah, they're
They're
gonna
fun. They're a fun group. Cool. Thank you.
Great job.
All right, next up, agenda item number 8, Kyle Public Library awarded the Texas Municipal Library Directors Association Award for 2022. Colleen Tierney.
Mayor and City Council, Colleen Tierney, Director of Library Services, for the record. I am proud to announce that the library staff in Kyle Library has been awarded the Achievement of Excellence in libraries in 2022. It is the 7th year that they've won this award. We've won this award. I say they because I joined the library at the end of 2022, and it is fully this amazing staff that really deserves this award. So I'd like you to know that only 73 libraries in the state of Texas won this award out of 542. So this amazing professional staff stands among the top in the state. And I want to take this time to honor them and to also thank some of our board members who came out to support the library this evening, Joy Torres and Mary Landrum. And I'm not sure anybody else who is on the board who's here, but I appreciate you. And I believe we have a proclamation.
We're signing it now, so it's not listed for a proclamation,
Okay.
but if your staff and board members wouldn't mind standing up, we'd love to give you a round of applause for this great award.
Okay, wonderful. And I'd just like to name each one of those people as they stand. That's Mary Folsom, Joelle Isla, Brizeda Torres, Michael Kaufman Lynch, Zoe Reyna, Jen Cardenas, Judy Thomas, Orlando Perez, and anybody else I missed? And the rest of the crew who are nearby or watching on TV. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you. Does anybody have any comments? Councilor Flores.
On top of all the really great staff that we have, I would be amiss not to say thank you to Paul, who used to be the director, and he led the reason why our team is so great is because we had great leaders, and so Paul is greatly missed, although we do love Colleen. And since this award is for 2022, he was here for part of that, and I just wanted to give him a little bit of recognition, so thank you, guys.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. All right, next up is going to be City Manager's report, and I'm going to ask Mr. Hendrix if it's okay with Mayor Pro Tem, if he can add the storm response to the end of the City Manager's report.
Yes, sir.
If we have questions and comments, it's not really a City Manager's report item, but I think we can take a little bit of privilege here if that's needed. Go ahead, thank you.
All right, for the record, Jerry Hendrix, Interim City Manager. First up on my report tonight is Parks Director Mariana Espinoza.
Mariana Espinoza, Parks and Recreation Director. On Saturday, April 22nd, we have a pickleball tournament at Ash Pavilion. starting at 9 a.m., and registration is taking place now on TexTravaganza.com. Our first family skate night of the season is next Friday, March 3rd, from 7 to 9 at Ash Pavilion. The Kyle Parks and Recreation Department will be celebrating International Women's Day on Wednesday, March 8th, from 5 to 8 at downtown Mary Kyle Hartson City Square Park. We'll have live music, good company, and wine and brew. And as I mentioned earlier, our seasonal hiring events, our first one is tomorrow between 5 and 6:45, followed by March 22nd and April 26th.
Thank you, Mariana. Next up is Colleen Tierney, our Director of Library Services.
City Council, still Colleen Tierney, Director of Library Services. Hold on. We have one more Black History Month story time coming up this week, and our Susan Reyna from the Friends of the Public Library will be our guest reader. They've been very well attended. We have crafts and activities as well, and we hope that people come out and join us for that. It's this Saturday, the 25th at 2 p.m. at the library. We also have we have some events going on during spring break. We have a special event for teens on March 14th. It does require pre-registration, and it is on the 14th from 1 to 3. It's a live reptile show. So get your teens out for that one. And we also have on Thursday, March 16th, a performance by the Innish School of Irish Dance to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. That's at 2 p.m. on March 16th. And I also wanted to highlight one of our unique offerings that we have at the library. We have Judy Thomas, who is an artist extraordinaire who has been, since COVID, been making these kits that people can take home as a whole kit to do story time at home. So we have, I think, about 30, almost 30 of these now. And it comes with the book, it comes with a couple of puppets, and it comes with a felt board and felt creatures to put on the felt board, and they're great for story time to help families at home work on those small motor and literacy skills. So that is a very special and unique project she started during the pandemic and has continued, and they're a very big hit in the library. So if you haven't checked them out, you should give it a try. And then also we just have our coffee station is back. Apparently it went away because of the pandemic, but we haven't upgraded thanks to the Friends of the Kyle Public Library. We have a Keurig now out there, and it's $1 a cup. $1 will get you a Keurig and a cup and all the fixins for the coffee bar. So all the funds benefit the Friends, all go to the Friends and help support our library. So thank you so much. Any questions?
Thank you, Colleen. Next up is Kathy Roker, our Stormwater Plan Administrator.
Hi, Mayor, Council members, Kathy Raker for the record. Coming up on Saturday, March 4th is the 38th Annual Great Texas River Cleanup. This is the 6th year that Kyle has been a participant in this. Every year has been very successful. Registration starts at 8:30 in the morning, and we will continue to pick up trash until roughly 11:30. Then we head back to Waterloo Park and have pizza. There will be breakfast tacos for breakfast, and there's usually a lot left over. So please, if you're sitting out there and you don't have anything to do on Saturday, March 4th, show up. We have lots of spots still open, so if you go to the city's website, you can search in the search bar Great Texas River Cleanup, and it will send you to a link. It's also been on our social media channels. Questions?
Thank you, Kathy. I really appreciate this one. I think it does sound like a lot of fun to go out there and walk along the creek.
Yes.
And there is some trash out there, right? I mean, I've walked that. I picked up a bag myself. So.
Yes. Anytime we go out there, we scout it before, and I think, okay, I can get a smaller roll-off. And then I regret it because we needed more space in the dumpster. So it's shocking how much trash people pick up along the way that is hidden in different places.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I highly encourage anybody to join us. Last year, I think we found like, it was like a kind of a game of like, what could we find? Like, what's the strangest thing that we find? And there was like a tire, there was all kinds of stuff, but it's genuinely a good time. Like, you go out there, you meet people, you clean up, and at the end of the day, it feels good. So I highly recommend anybody who's interested, or like you said, has free time to come out there and join us.
Yes. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kathy. Next up is Rachel Sonnier, our Communications Director.
Hello, Council. Sorry, I am virtual tonight because I have COVID in the household right now. But I'll be presenting on the Pirate Treasure Hunt. It starts March 1st and goes all the way through the 22nd this year. We will have 4 treasure chests hidden throughout the city of Kyle. People have until March 22nd at 5 p.m. to submit. Find the treasure chest, submit it, and enter a raffle to win possibly $314 in celebration of National Pie Day in the pie capital of Texas. All we ask is that anyone that finds any of our treasure to leave it for other treasure hunters to find also. You can find more info about this event at cityofkyle.com/calendar, but we'll be launching it March 1st through 22nd.
Thank you, Rachel. Will Atkinson, our Planning Director, is next.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Will Atkinson, Planning Director for the record. For our comprehensive plan update, we had 5 events that we actually hosted last Wednesday that were in public. 1 at Fire Station 2 in the afternoon, and then 4 simultaneously at Barton Middle School, Science Hall Elementary, Kyle City Hall, and Tobias Elementary School. We got a lot of feedback. We had several people here at City Hall. We had a lot of people over at Barton Middle School as well. And between the online interactive mapping tool and the total surveys online, we had about 230 total responses for the mapping. We had stuff in person here and stuff online, so that was pretty neat actually. And that's open until 11:59 tonight. The second survey, which is associated with the online maps, is also going to 11:59 tonight. And at this time, we have about 469 responses. So we've had quite a few people, and I'm sure the number is going to go up a little bit before the end of the night. For the downtown master plan, we have 1 more open house. That is this coming Thursday right here in the council chambers from 5 to 8. We want everybody that we can possibly to come out here and see what we have as a draft document, provide feedback and what have you. So if we need to make edits, we can do so. We are also about to be launching actually it's in place right now, our downtown master plan survey. From February 9th to March 2nd to also provide more opportunities for feedback related to the plan. And this last week, Thursday and Friday, our planning staff, myself included, we walked Old Highway 81 and West Center Street and all the spaces in between, canvassing businesses to go a little bit extra on the mileage there to get the public outreach. So I think I walked 2.5 miles Thursday afternoon. So it was good. It's good to see the businesses and get feedback from them as well. And that's all I have.
I just want to say that I went to Tobias Elementary, and the setup was amazing. It was like so informative. It was interactive. I loved it. I'm going to say that I think this is the most I've seen we've done for outreach from the city to the residents. And so I was a little frustrated that the very few residents showed up to Tobias. But it feels good to know that the city did as much as they could to reach out to as many people. And I read your email and I heard that you were block walking, and I was super impressed. So I just want to say thank you to you and to the rest of staff for literally the extra mile that you guys walked to make sure that we get as much input as possible for this.
Thank you.
I'm bringing 2 things up with me today, so obviously I have a little bit to talk about. For the record, Jerry Hendrix, Interim City Manager. Unfortunately, I don't have any new hires to report to you today, but I do have some good news in terms of our staffing. For the first time that I can remember, I can report that our street department is fully staffed and our Parks and Recreation department is fully staffed. And that's in large part to the extra employment incentives that you passed for us in this fiscal year, and we're working diligently to fill the remainder of the 55 new positions that you allowed for us this year, and bring on quality staff to do the work for the citizens of Kyle. I also want to recognize what we're going to refer to from here on as Leon and Associates, our engineering department. And they're they're not quite fully staffed yet, but Leon let us know this morning that it was Engineering Week, or National Engineers Week, and so we couldn't let that go by without recognizing them and the good work that they do. And since he waited till last minute, I'm going to invite him up here to introduce his team and say a couple nice things about them.
Thank you, Jerry. Leon Barba, Mayor and Council, City Engineer. Mayor and Council, I started with the city in November of 2013, and I left the City of Austin, and at that point in time, I was the building official. I'd been the chief engineer, so when I needed things done, I'd looked around at the staff that I had. I had as many as 160 staff that reported to me at one time, engineering division, right-of-way division, contract section, and street maintenance sections. And then I started working for the city of Kyle. I wanted to take on the challenge of building those 7 roads that we ended up building, I think 8. And I looked around, so I was asked to put some plans together, and I looked around and I realized that, oh my God, it's just me here. So anyway, but slowly but surely, council has supported me. Just about every year I've gotten another position and another position, so I really appreciate what council has done for me and our staff. We're looking for an assistant city engineer. If there's anybody out there listening, we really need to get another assistant city engineer on staff to help me with the workload that we do have. We do have a tremendous workload. We have roughly 30 projects that we get involved with on a routine basis. And without the staff that I have, if I need help, I just say, I need some help. They'll jump right in and and help me with whatever I need. So I'm really very proud of our staff. And we have some new employees that just started, and they're working out great. So I'm really pleased with them. So thank you, council, and thanks for the support that you give the engineering department.
Thank you, Leon.
The recognitions don't stop there, and this news is literally hours old. I'd like to introduce Perez Moit, that everybody knows, and his team, because this is, how many years in a row have you worn? 13 years in a row that he's received the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada. Before Pervez got here, we didn't know this award existed, and now it's just routine that he and his staff accept this awards. So Pervez, would like to come say a few things?
Mayor Pro Tem, council members, for the record, I'm Pervez Mohi, City's Director of Finance. Congratulations to you. This really reflects on the city's financial team and council for your support. Because of you, we were able to add, just like Leon said, we were able to add employees over time. And we have improved our process and procedures over the years. And every year we have strived to get better and better. And the annual awards that we receive, these are not local, county level or state level awards. These are national awards. They're a organization called Government Finance Officers Association. These are organizations that are made up of people like myself, for directors of finance, assistant directors of finance, and financial professionals from across the country that review our process and procedures and select. So there's a total of about 10,000 cities and counties that go for this award. And of those 10,000, about 400 are selected each year. And I'm proud to tell you that we are one of them. The City of Kyle was selected again. This is our 13th consecutive award. That's a huge accomplishment for City of Kyle and the city's financial management team. It also reinforces, I hope, that you can rely on the financial information that you're provided, and to the citizens and taxpayers that they have a solid team that is safeguarding their taxpayers' money. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Pervez.
And And once we get the actual certificate, we'll be bringing him and his team back in front of you for a formal presentation, but just couldn't pass up that opportunity. So that concludes my city manager's report in terms of our staff. And I was also asked to bring forward the item with our storm debris update. A lot of this is going to be a reiteration of what I said right after the storm. The weekend right after the storm, we were able to open up all of our parks and bring in staff and dumpsters to allow our residents to bring their debris to us and make it as convenient as possible with parks located all over town. We were open for approximately 4 days until the volume was dropping off and we were getting more trash than we were debris. That debris that we collected was just under 270 cubic yards worth of brush. That equates to 457,000 pounds, or 229 tons of brush that we collected from citizens of Kyle. Other things that we responded to or ready to respond to are our emergency management coordinator monitored directly through the PEC website number of homes that were in Kyle that were without power. Fortunately, we never had more than a few handfuls of people without power at any given time, and their power was always restored within 3 to 5 hours. Had that not been the case, had we had people with extended power outages or with large groups that had extended power, or large areas that had extended power outages, we were ready to open up warming centers at Kyle facilities throughout Kyle. And also we were ready to deploy mobile warming centers in the terms of school buses through a cooperation agreement with the school district to put those out should any area need the warming centers. Our police department, our public works, and our parks department, and our environmental trades department were all on standby in case roads needed attention or blocking off, or there was major accidents anywhere. Fortunately, we didn't see any of that because our citizens did a great job of staying off the roads, and our communications department did a great job of keeping citizens updated on the status. Moving forward, we're monitoring needs within the Kyle to see if there's a need for us to reopen up any collection centers. We're just not hearing about that right now, but we stand ready in case there is that need to open back up. We do have other options for citizens that still have some brush to be taken care of. We had asked them to take advantage of their on-call twice-a-year brush and bulk collection through TDS, or TDS to come to your home and pick up debris that's properly prepared. Our residents still have the free drop-off at the landfill where they can take any items that they still have to drop off. And additionally, you have up to 10 bags of yard waste that you can set out if you need to. Anybody that needs special help can either contact my office and we'll help find resources for you, or they can call directly the Austin Disaster Relief Network, and we have that information out on our social media. And there are volunteers that are coordinating efforts to get, if you have a disability or not able to work in your yard yourself, that we can help get that help to you. So that concludes my report. I'm able to answer any questions if you would like.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you. This was something that I know at the last minute I had asked you, Mr. Hendrix, to bring forward, and thank you for doing that. Because again, we all know what happened up north in Austin. You had sometimes up to 27,000 people, I believe, that were without electricity.
It's more than that.
More than that, exactly, for many, many
That's
days.
in the wrong spot.
And so that was just one area. So it just kind of brought the question about our response to how many people in our city was without power. And I think you mentioned here that if there was any of the sectors throughout the city, it was up to maybe the most up to 5 hours before they were restored.
Correct.
So it looks like, Mr. Tabash, you also had a plan in place to where if we needed open warming centers, and the locations would probably have been announced. But I think the biggest concern, of course, we've heard was from the residents about the debris and about the branches. There are still people out there that don't have trucks and trailers. We understand that, yes, it is personal property. These are branches that belong to you in a sense in your yard. But I had another conversation with another council member to find out what other resources that we can continue to bring forward, because the cleanup is still going on. If you look around the city, there's a lot of branches that are still out there, even in the parks area, that are still down. What's going to be our plan for getting those cleaned up? And again, for those that do need assistance, because I have been seeing some branches in the neighborhoods at curbside, and hearing a news story on KXN the other day, a lot of the fire marshals are getting concerned with that because, as you know, it's starting to get hot again. That could be a fire hazard for cigarettes or a car driving by. So those are concerns that I would have. If there's anything that we have in place, also, Mr. DeBosch, if there's anything that you have, any kind of recommendations that we can be able to at least go forward and provide besides the dropping off on your own or hiring somebody, if something that the city is looking at still to be able to provide in the city or within the sectors of the city.
We had some dumpsters pulled out, as you described, for people to drop them off at collection points. We can ask TDS to try and circulate to collect these things. It's just a matter of establishing a short-term contract and paying them for it.
Okay. Thank you.
I do have a question. I noticed that the county is still, they still have 4 drop-off locations. And I didn't know if it was possible or what the city could do as far as, I drive to Fuentes every day from 150, and so I go through these neighborhoods, and I see there these, in the street, by the curb, huge bundles, or just like, I can't even say bundles, like branches that have sprouted out, right? And they're just laying there. Is there anything that we could do? I know the city has like a trailer. Is there anything we can do to like pick that stuff up? 150 also has like some debris along it, a lot, going towards Hendrix. And so I didn't know if we used the city trailer to pick it up, and then we could have them haul it off to the locations at the Hayes County. And I think the location closest to Kyle's in Niederwald, so it's really not that far.
Yeah, if I can find out where those specific locations along right-of-way are, we can determine if it's our right-of-way or TxDOT's right-of-way or somebody else's, and then we can make a plan to get the stuff in the right-of-way picked up. If it's still in people's yards and they're just unable to remove it on their own, we can address those on a case-by-case basis if those addresses can be made known to us.
Okay, all right, thank you.
The reason why I might add, because I would hate for somebody, especially if we have somebody who's elderly or disabled, to where they're not able to move this, then next thing you know, we have code enforcement coming down, knocking on the door. And so it's just being able to still have some resources available for our residents to have in the event they cannot take these items to the drop-offs at TDS, if there's something that we can kind of work with. And again, being a scenic city, you know, we want to be able to make sure that we have our parks and all the other branches picked up as well. So I'm sure there's a city plan working throughout, making sure that all those are picked up.
Our parks teams are addressing the parks now. They were, first week or two, they were involved with collecting the stuff from our residents. So they've been redeployed into their parks and are working on cleaning up those trees and getting that brush removed now as well.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where the county drop-offs are, but it might be good just using our social media platforms to remind folks, because those
I think that
are ongoing.
We are. I just like, if I can pat our team on the back a little bit, that we were out there collecting stuff from people the week before they got their locations open. So that.
Yeah. I know there's one by the Y in Buda,
Yeah.
and it's just massive, the amount of debris, or, whatever you call it, I guess, branches that are being dropped off there. And I know that's available to our residents as well. So if you don't want to take your trash all the way to, TDS to drop off, or if there's no other options, those county drop-off spots are valuable.
Yeah,
because I know I've driving around, I think most of the, branches are taken off, but not all. So that'd be a good location for
Right,
them.
well, I'll make sure we're promoting those, and anybody with special circumstances can contact us, and we'll deal with those on a case-by-case basis. I just also want to add that our Public Works Department is storing a lot of that brush that TDS couldn't keep up with in their yard, and now we're working with TDS to have that removed so it can be mulched and added to their compost product.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. All right, next up, CIP road projects and consent agenda.
Mayor, if you don't mind, I know it's not on the agenda, but I wanted to just briefly say thank you to Amy and everybody out there for the Valentine's Day dance for disabilities the other night. Some of us went to that. It was a great event. It was a packed house at Gemstone Palace. Thank you to them as well and all the volunteers that were out there. It was like a big event where we actually saw limos pulling up. Yes, we did. We saw limousines and people were dropping off people for the dance. So I just wanted to give you a big thank you. It was a great success. We appreciate it.
Can I tag along? Yes, that was a wonderful event. I had so much fun dancing with all those kids. I let loose. I've told my husband, I'm coming to this event every time you guys make it. So count me in for any volunteer and anything you need. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Barba.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leon Barba, City Engineer. I'm starting off with the Levita del Park. It's about 83% complete. I won't read all the details through here, but one of the things I noted is at least they've got something completed at the bottom, near the bottom where they completed the pour for the reflecting pool. So that's been completed. Everything else is still underway. Their date has moved to April of 2023. Public Safety Center, we're at 76% complete. They're doing a lot of work on level 1 and level 2. They're painting, they're installing overhead lights, and they're installing tile in the restrooms. They did place some concrete on the west stairs in the mechanical yard, and they're starting to work on the plumbing fixtures. The training room, they're doing some tape and float in that room there. Their completion date is May of 2023. Wastewater treatment plant expansion project. The person there on the right is very happy because now we have those variable frequency drives that I kept talking about that finally got delivered. So the project is 99% complete. They will be installed. The outer plant road has been paved. They're working on the curbing. They're also installing light poles along the plant roads at this time. And the completion punch list has been issued, so we're waiting for them to wrap that up. Here's a really good picture showing the roads that have been paved recently. Southside wastewater improvement projects, we're at about 91% complete. Completed our service line there at the TDCJ facility. The Old World Bakery, who's been waiting for that sewer line to be connected, is they're ready to tie in now, so that will help their problems with their septic system. We're expecting to complete this next month. Elliott Branch Interceptor, we're about 93% based on the last pay estimate. We have done the final walkthrough. The final punch list has been issued. We're cleaning up the area. And I just want to let council know the scope of this project. This was a pretty large scope of project when you look at it and all the area that it encompassed. We started at 81, went up across the railroad tracks all the way up to Scott Street. So it was a pretty big project. One of the important things I like about these projects is that we were able to get rid of one of our lift stations. The Redford lift station was taken out, so we don't have to worry about maintaining that lift station anymore. Downtown relocation of overhead lines, we're still waiting on Spectrum and PEC to complete their work, and our project manager's been checking on them. They haven't moved very fast, but we're just trying to keep pushing them and hoping they can wrap this project up. Old Post Road, all we really have left is drainage work. Didn't see the county crews there today. They're working on storm debris also, but that's all they got left is the drainage work to clean it up, and then we'll have to come in and do the last layer of asphalt on that road.
I have a question about that road. Was it repaved all the way to Old Post Road or to the 158?
Yes, that's all asphalt in there. There's one more layer of lift of hot mix that goes on top of that.
And I just drove it and it looks like there's a significant difference from 158 to the church versus the church to 150. And so I didn't know, I couldn't tell if half of it had been done or not. So
All the paving, the lower layer of paving has been installed, and actually there's quite a bit of gravel underneath that. And all that work has been done by the county. Now, one of the problems that we had with that particular project, we were trying to do it in 2 phases, and because we got delayed on the south end in trying to get that intersection straightened out, we ended up doing it in 3 phases. So they actually had to do 3 phases of construction. When you do phase construction, you don't normally have the nice uniform presence that you would like to see on a road because you have to do it in pieces. And that's part of the reason that it looks like that. We also had to do some repairs in there.
Okay, but it's gonna get one more layer on top?
One more layer, one more 2-inch layer, and according to the interlocal agreement, the city has to place that last layer on there and cover it up.
Okay, and that's gonna go from 150 to 158?
That is correct,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
And there's striping that's going to be left in the counties. We're going to be using the county's striping contractor for that to wrap it up. Indian Paintbrush Lift Station, we're about 43% complete. They're removing forms from the wet well roof slab. The mechanical piping inside the wet well is being installed. They're still working on some underground electrical conduits, and the odor control slab is planned for the next couple of weeks. There's a really good picture of the overhead picture of what the site looks like today. Center Street Village wastewater line, Phase 1. This is the last time you'll see this one. We are complete. The project's done. We're just waiting to close out the paperwork. I wish all my projects went this smoothly. I wanted to show you this slide. This is a Crosswinds water storage. What you have on the right is the ground storage tank, 150,000 gallons, and that is almost completed. All that's left now is the logo. On the left is the elevated storage tank that's going along with that project. And you can see that's the bubble that goes on top of the elevated storage. But I wanted to share these with you so you can see we're providing additional water storage there at the Crosswinds subdivision.
It looks like a hot air balloon. We could paint it like our logo.
We could use our imagination on that one, yes, sir.
The pie in the sky logo. There you
That's
go.
what I was thinking, pie in the sky on there.
On the consent agenda items, this is amendment that we're going to want to award to LJA Engineering. It's for some additional work. As you may remember, they're doing the work on from Marketplace back to Center Street, where they're going to be adding a lane and adding a shared use path and putting some lighting in. And then visiting with Public Works, there were some areas that we really wanted to have them include some water line and wastewater line upgrades and close some loops. And I added this map so you can kind of see where we're going to be doing that work. Oops, fingers there. 19 and 20 are 2 change orders that AGCM is sponsoring. I've asked Derek Bird to be here to answer any questions that you may have for him to come up.
Waiting for the hands to raise. Derek Bird with AGCM, if y'all have any questions.
Does anybody have any questions on those
I
items?
asked all mine on email, so I already collected all my information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
These 2 next items are for grant writing services. Kalbacher and Associates is doing the actual grant writing, and we've also asked Cobb Finley to provide cost estimates as they need that information to submit to the grant that we're wanting to try to get. And that's my presentation. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Barba? Thank you, Leon. Appreciate it very much. All right, on the consent agenda, I do have a request from staff to remove item 16, and they'll bring that back at another time. Is there anyone who has any other items they wish to pull? Motions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda items 11 through 15 and 17 through 22.
All right, motion by Councilmember Flores Kale, seconded by Councilmember Parsley, that we approve consent agenda items 11 through 15 and 17 through 22. Is there discussion on that motion? Councilmember Parsley.
I just want to make a comment about agenda item 13. And it is just to tell our Parks Department how excited I am about seeing an inclusive playground. That is something that I know I mentioned to you guys a couple of weeks ago. So I'm very excited about the proposal that you guys showed and to see this built up. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I did want to pull 13. And just ask a few more questions about the water grant.
Well, we've got the motion on the table for the the full amount, but if you want to ask your questions right now, it's a good time. You
Yeah,
can just go
so-
right into it.
The grant is, when is the deadline? Did I see February 28th? Are we running right up against it to get that engineering study and the grant writing completed? Leon?
That is correct, council member. And, but they were advised well ahead of time that this was going to be very tight schedule for them to get that information. So we know they're under the gun, but they were aware.
Okay. And so I did see that they have a 66%, I guess, success rate of winning the grant, but it's only going to be 4 of them awarded. Do we know, I guess?
Councilmember Amber Schmeits.
What are the
assistant.
odds? I mean, do we have very good odds, it seems?
Yes, sir. We do. Actually, I believe the city of Kyle was awarded this grant funding in 2012, they told us.
Mm-hmm.
And they consider the city of Kyle to be on the forefront of purple pipe and reclaimed water. And so they feel like we have a really great chance. They're going to use a lot of the information that we've already done. For whatever reason, we were, the city of Kyle at that point in time was unable to implement what was funded to them. But we feel confident. We're ready. We have the master plan underway. We know with the drought, we want to get this.
Right.
We want to get the actual infrastructure in the ground and get going on this. So yeah, we're confident that we will be successful.
Back in January, I thought we were considering something related to a water reclamation. So was that a different project that we already had funding for, to add additional reclamation?
In January, we asked for permission to apply for this grant funding, and then we realized that it was outside of the scope of Mr. Carl Backer's contract, and that we also needed Com Finley to do some work on their end to provide information for the grant application. And so that's why we're coming back to you, asking you for funding and authorization for these
Right.
contracts to perform that work.
So the total amount is 2 million? Is it $1 million?
I believe we're applying for 2 million. We do have Carl Carbacker on the line, if you would like to correct me, Carl. And it might depend on what Cobb Finley comes up from.
Because I thought in
With their
January that it was going to
information.
cost us $150,000 to apply for it. But I could have the wrong numbers,
What item are we discussing right now?
the water grant. Water Smart.
It's
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yes.
so we have to.
22?
We have to write a grant, get an engineering thing, which is great, but then we push it in there. But I thought we were going to spend more money initially to apply for this grant.
He's not online. Okay, there must be something wrong on his end. No, not with this grant. I'm not sure what, though, that might have been a different grant, but this one in particular, no, there is no more additional funding that we have to come up with. I think we're going to apply for the $2 million, but it will depend on the numbers that come out of Cobb Finley's work that y'all are being asked to authorize tonight.
Okay, sounds good.
Councilmember, there is one more thing that's going to have to happen later. One of the things that we may have to do is update our feasibility report that was done in 2012, and that is in the range of 150 to 175,000.
Yeah,
That's what you might have heard.
I thought I saw a higher number.
Yeah.
And so that was just what I thought. In order to apply, would there be matching funds? Would we have to, or is this just a full grant paid out?
From what I understand, we're supposed to be hoping to get that grant so we can pay for part of that feasibility study.
Okay, thank you.
And then, council member, there is an item coming up for your approval to accept the $2 million earmarked from Representative
Yes.
Lloyd Doggett. And so
That's
that will
next up.
help give y'all some resources to start spending money on those efforts.
Thank you. Yeah, sounds good.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
And I was gonna pull 13 just because I had questions too.
Okay.
He did say 13.
Yeah, that's why I was confused, because I thought you were talking about
Yeah.
13 at
No,
first,
he
and I
said
didn't know you were
22.
asking a question
Yeah.
about 22.
You were talking about you
All right,
asked to
well,
pull.
I asked for items to be pulled, and nobody said anything,
Well,
and
because
so then we did a motion in a second.
Leon
so.
had just finished, so we're right on those last ones.
Well, do you have any concerns, or can we just talk about it?
Yeah,
We can approve it.
so
and just
we'll-
talk about it.
if you have a question on 13, we'll just go ahead and
Yeah.
let you ask that
I
question
just wanted to
now.
look more natural. I think the renderings I saw, Mariana, were very, because this is at the lake, right? So I thought there was a image that looked probably more appropriate. It looked more natural, what kind of wood design. So that, I would just say, I'd be cautious of just seeing okay, like this, it's not shaded, but if you go further down, there's more of like a playscape area, which maybe we already have that down there, and it's just not big enough. But if you go further down, it's kind of at the end. So what I would love to see, because it is a lake, and then I like to kind of maintain the natural part of it. It's almost there.
So Councilmember Zuniga, I'm not sure if it helps, but what's presented is what
it-
could go in the
Okay.
space. And so the final design has yet to be determined with, once it's
So
approved.
these
Yeah.
little, go back up,
Can you go back up?
yeah. Like that little stuff in there. With the slide and a little tunnel. I mean, I thought that would more natural look in the area.
Okay.
Just perspective.
That would probably include more money, right?
Yeah,
'Cause I
so
was
this
looking-
playground has turf surfacing,
Okay.
so it's not like a natural surfacing. Did you want to add something?
And would there
Amy?
be any water feature in this? Because I wouldn't want to have maybe two really
Probably
close-
not a water feature, but like I said, we're still, once Craftman is approved, we have to work with them on the final design of the park. So the park amenities have not been chosen yet. These are just examples of what could go there. And Cole, his name Cole? Cody, sorry, Cody, is here from Craftsman as well, if there's any particular questions on the pieces of equipment.
Yeah, Amy Garcia, Recreation Manager. So what's presented to you now are the options that we have based on the 200,000 that we have been allotted for the inclusive playground. So if there's any changes or any additions that you would like to see, it would have to come back to be changed and adjusted. But we are trying to stay with the same feel that the current playground has, so we're still going with the turf. But Craftsman was able to give us a lot more amenities in this location that were meeting the needs of an inclusive playground. But not a splash pad or any water features.
Okay.
Councilmember Flores.
Thank you. So out of curiosity, if I liked the idea of the water feature over by the lake, I don't know if council if it matters to them where the splash pad goes, but if we could even put that in the inclusive part, I think that would be really amazing. Because my main concern for this area is a little shade. And Mariana did answer my email and said that I don't know if you guys were looking into that or not, but maybe, I hate to keep moving money around, but if we can allocate some money over to that area to put that whole Lake Kyle is hot.
Right.
Like when you walk over there, there is zero shade. And so if we're going to get this inclusive area, I think it's even more important that we add maybe a water aspect to it, or definitely some shade, because it gets really hot in the summers.
Yeah, so at this time, no shade is included within this cost breakdown.
And I know the parking is really small down there, so that's something to consider if y'all don't have enough parking spaces in front of y'all's little
Right,
building.
and so the future plan, and Mariana can speak to it a little bit more, but the future plan is to expand this area and the parking aspect of it, because we will use it for Pie in the Sky and Kyle Fair. So it has the opportunity to expand out, and we have the opportunity to open up the barricades to allow more parking as well.
And I guess, would y'all still be able to look into maybe a possible nature outdoor center somewhere out there? I think that'd be a great addition for y'all.
Yeah, I think that's a great opportunity for us.
We would love to have an outdoor nature center since most of our programming is outdoors.
Right.
But it would go through the budget process, that's our budget request.
Okay.
Sounds like we've got good work to do out there.
Right, there's some work to do.
And budgeting process is also a good kind of way to bookend the conversation there. So everything has a budgetary element to it, and we are literally getting ready to start our budgeting process.
I just wanted to add, you do have, the presentation they sent, there is the playground at Bay City that is really, really nice. I know it's a lot more expensive, but I am really excited that there's gonna be such a playground for kids of, all kinds. So I wouldn't mind if there is any additional thought about maybe adding something, and eventually we need to do an amendment, because I think is well worth it.
Right, and so the location that we've chosen for the playground has the opportunity to expand out.
Okay.
So that would be a great location if we were looking to expand out more east. That's an opportunity for that as well.
And just to mention, if every park in Cal could have inclusive features, I think that should be a goal for us. Thank you.
All right. Ash, I believe you got your item passed there, item number 14. So you guys, yeah, you're the greatest ambassador this town's ever seen, buddy. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Every time something comes up with regards to Ash Pavilion, your namesake, you're here. You're here dressed to impress with a full speech, ready to go. It just brings me a lot of joy to vote yes every single time something comes up. So just to be commended in the Crane family. You guys are awesome. So.
And if you don't mind, to add to that, just not advocating for your sport, but you're advocating to the community as well, for other kids to get to know about your sport that you enjoy. So just know exactly what Mayor says, that you come up here, you present your items, you do your homework, and you're actually advocating for just not only just for you and your friends and for your sport, but for the community in general, because everybody uses that. So I applaud you. It's a good job.
All right. All right, next up is agenda item number 23. That's a public hearing. This concerning the creation of reinvestment zone number 4. Pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 311 of the Texas Government Code. It was left open at the last meeting. If there are no objections, I'm gonna open the public hearing. The public hearing is now open, and we're gonna leave this item open yet again until the next meeting as we bring forward the creation documents for TIRZ number 4. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. All right, next up is agenda item number 24. Approve a resolution authorizing the negotiation of an agreement with CP&Y to provide professional engineering consulting services for the design of wastewater treatment plant expansion phase 2. Mr. Barba.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leon Barba, City Engineer. Mayor and Council, as you know, we just almost completed the first phase of the treatment plant expansion. We went from 3 million gallons per day to 4.5 million gallons per day capacity of that plant. We're also in the process of working with TCEQ to expand our permit up to 9 and possibly 12 million gallons per day. We have a meeting later in March, I think, to go over that project one more time. But this particular item that is before you is a request to start the design for Phase 2. Phase 2 is a different project, so it's going to be requiring different type of work that's involved. It's a major project. It's a large project. So the RFQ was developed last November, and we got 5 firms that submitted proposals. And based on staff's recommendation, we're recommending CP&Y to handle this next phase of the treatment plant expansion.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve CP&Y.
Second.
Motion by Mayor, second by Councilmember Parsley. Is there discussion on the motion? Mayor Pro Tem.
Was there other vendors or companies out there that were looking at bidding as well? What were their rankings?
Mayor Pro Tem, we don't, this is a request for qualifications. It's an engineering contract. We don't solicit bids. We look at the firms and see who's the best qualified.
Okay.
And then when we go through that process, then we negotiate a contract with that firm. So that would be the next phase of this process, is to go ahead and negotiate a contract with them for the design and bring that back to council for review and approval. So there were 5 firms that did submit proposals, and of the 5 firms, this CP&Y was selected as the best qualified.
Okay. Councilmember Florscow.
Thank you. Can you tell me if Burgess and is it Nypol Engineers, if they responded at all with an RFQ?
They did respond, yes, they did.
Okay, I would be interested to see that. My only concern is they were the ones that did the current expansion. And so to keep things consistent, I would just like to have known why they were eliminated from for submittal. I guess I'm genuinely interested. I tried to ask a couple times and I never seemed to get like an answer. So I guess my curiosity was just, you know, I feel like this expansion was really smooth. I mean, it's taken a long time, but I think it would have been a little bit safer to stick with the people who did this expansion. So I guess I'm asking you why, what was about their bid that you guys didn't like?
Again, council member, this was not a bid. This was a qualifications submittal.
Okay, yeah, so their request for qualifications.
That's
What
correct.
qualifications did they not have that you felt like they needed?
We have, just to let you know the process, we have a panel. We selected a panel with staff from Public Works and Engineering were on the panel. They reviewed the qualifications. We give the people that are interested in the proposal 4 categories to look at. I don't have them memorized yet, but there's 4 categories that we look at. And experience, availability, the firm experience. We look at all those items, look at their resumes, and each staff member grades it based on what they read through that proposal. I always tell them, if you had a bad project manager on with this firm 10 years ago, that's not what you look at. You look at the proposal today that's in front of you. If they have a project manager who's got a good experience, they're available, ready to do the work and get to work on it, then give them the score that you think is appropriate. So we take the average of the scores. And based on the results of the scores that were taken, Burgess and Apple ended up being 4th out of 5.
Okay.
So that tells me that something didn't look right to the panel. I was not on the panel, so I can't, and I did that intentionally because I wanted to make sure that there was no bias on my part on any of the firms. And the panel that is on there are all fairly new employees, so that's why I wanted them to look at that and give me a fair, honest evaluation of the qualifications that these firms had, and could they do the work, and did they have the people that had the experience, were they available so they could get to do this work, and that's what they came up with on the final scores.
Okay, thank you.
That was a pretty high-ranking company, so I'm excited to see what they're going to bring up to the table.
We're expecting a lot from them, Councilman.
95.8, so it's pretty good. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. All right, next up is agenda item number 25, acceptance of $2 million from Lloyd Doggett's office. This is Amber's item. Technically, we don't have to take a vote because it's an appropriation, but this merited, I thought, bringing forward just to acknowledge the work of Congressman Doggett and our firm, AKIN GUMP, who helped bring this together.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, Amber Schmeits, Assistant City Manager for the record. Congressman Doggett generously earmarked $2 million for our water reclamation project. As I said before, that they consider the city of Kyle, they as in the feds, consider the city of Kyle at the forefront of purple pipe and reclaimed water. And so we're excited about this opportunity, excited about the earmark. That's huge and special for the city of Kyle to be awarded these funds. And so we are asking, well, we don't have to, we're asking for your approval to accept these funds, and that will help us get to work on spending them. So we're excited for this project.
I'd like to make a motion to officially accept the $2 million from Lloyd Doggett's office for the water reclamation project.
Second.
Motion by the mayor, second by Councilmember Flores Scales. For discussion on that motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries 6-0. All right, next up is agenda item 26, approved scope of services for 2023-2024 and reaffirm engagement agreement with AKIN GUMP, STRAUSS, HAUER, and FELD LLP in the amount of $172,000 per year for providing federal legislative services to the city of Kyle. This is my item being brought forward. So a couple things. Number one, it's already budgeted item. So we did outline this item in the budget. AKIN GUMP, whenever we had our transition from the previous city manager to the interim city manager, actually was not being paid for a while there, and yet they continued to provide the services. In fact, they were 6 months behind on being paid. And I wasn't even made aware of that until a few weeks ago, in which we did pay them, but at that time, we realized that the contract that they have been operating under is an annual contract. So while we appropriated the funds for this year, we need to reaffirm the contract that we have with them so that they can continue to be officially engaged. And that said, the AKIN GUMP has not stopped working. They are currently engaging our new congressional delegation and Congressman Kassar to provide for meetings and also to set up for council prioritized funding requests. Obviously, the amount is large. That's what AKIN GUMP is probably the #1 or among the top federal lobbyists in all the land. And they've shown their value in their first full contract year with the city of Kyle. And so I wanted to sponsor this contract, bring it forward so that we could not have them be working pro bono for us, but to actually make that a reality. And wanted to see if anyone had any questions or concerns. Councilmember Parsley.
I would like to make a motion to approve item 26.
Motion by Councilmember Parsley, seconded by Councilmember Flores-Kales. The discussion on the motion?
I do want to make a comment.
Sure.
I think initially I wasn't a fan of spending this amount of money with them until we went to DC and the way that they had lined up the meetings for us to meet with representatives and, advocating for us and for the city of Kyle. It is really well worth it. I believe it's because of them and the way they set us up that we were able to get those $2 million we just accepted. So I'm looking forward to continue to work with them.
Thank you. Councilor Zuniga.
Yeah, so I just had questions about the results. Though, is the $2 million through their lobby work all exclusively?
Yes.
Okay. Because what do they do for us up there?
They coordinate meetings, and they take our legislative priorities and try to bring those to bear with our congressional delegation. So we have a whole group of federal delegates, congressmen, senators, and the like, and they are there maintaining our interests, putting together meetings, and advocating on behalf of the city. And so, without doubt, they were the primary factor in helping us to bring this about. And so we're very thankful obviously for Congressman Doggett as well, and his work, but they shepherded it all the way through from beginning to end.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir. As you know from the beginning, I was kind of not an opponent on the delegates themselves. I just felt that the $13,000 per month for the services was a lot, especially with the $4,000 to cover travel and expenses and so forth on that end. I did not have the opportunity to travel to DC with the others, so it's really hard for me to really see exactly what all went on. To be fair, I know that's really on my part, but it's these kind of things to where you're kind of stuck in the middle of the road here, because you're this is a lot of money. This is over $218,000, I guess, within a matter of 2 years or so. And I look at our current situation with with our roads, and we're trying to get parks built and stuff like that. But again, it's just trying to weigh, is spending this amount of money really in the end reflects how we as a city go after grants. And I guess that's just the nature of the way everything goes. You have to be able to pay consultants, or you have to be able to pay for these types of services to get big results. So from the beginning, that is one of the reasons why I had always been kind of not so much using the word against it. It's just it was just hard for me to wrap around spending that large amount of money for a company to go and advocate for us when I felt that we could have advocated on our own on that end. So on that's kind of where I'm stuck between that right there, Mayor.
Yeah, I understand. All I will say is this. In 7 years that I've been here, The amount of earmarks and appropriations the city of Kyle has received from federal dollars in this type of category is exactly zero until the day we hired AKIN GUMP. And as a result, they went to work, and here we are accepting $2 million, which is for every dollar we spent on them, we're receiving 10 back in money that goes directly into infrastructure planning for our water, a very important reclaimed water project. So I was also very skeptical. When we hired them, we told them they were going to have to deliver.
Right.
And that we wanted them to be able to show their value to the city, and I don't know how they could have showed it better than within their first major contract period to deliver this type of an appropriation to us. To me, says that it's been money very, very well spent. So that's. But I do understand exactly what your concern is, and I think that any council member would be right to have that concern. And had that
Right,
appropriation not come through, it might have been a very different conversation. But I don't know how I couldn't support them to keep moving forward, knowing that they have delivered more value to us than they've cost in services.
Right. I agree. A lot of it is the connections up there. So if, I have to be careful with taxpayer money too, so.
Understood.
So, yes, I think, like you said, how long would this last?
It's a one-year contract, yes.
Period. Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries 5-1. All right, next up is agenda item 27, discussion to address damages created by AT&T and the other fiber companies and the timeline of repairs. Councilmember Parsley.
Thank you. So I would like to address one more time this issue that has been brought up to council several times. I don't know how many agenda items we have done about this, to see how we can get the companies that are doing the fiber installation to be responsive with the residents that have had damage. We have gotten complaints over and over again, and the vast majority of residents that approach the workers are faced with them not wanting to give contact information about who the company is or supervisors and when my yards are gonna be fixed. So I share as backup material a picture, and I don't know if it can be brought up. And it's just a couple of the many, many complaints and pictures we get. So I would like to see if we can get the representatives here to share full contact information and address the issues that are being presented to us. We get complaints in the mail all the time. And as tired as you guys are from listening to us, we get tired to getting the complaints too. And one thing we ask at the very beginning is for these companies to be responsive with the residents, to leave communication, contact information. Apparently some of the cards that have been left by the doors, people are not responding. Emails, phone calls, said, okay, we were gonna review this yard damage we did, and nobody else shows up. So I want to know, I have gotten complaints from broken pipes in Silverado Crossing, Hometown Cow and Hometown Parkway has had a lot of damage on the road. There is Kensington Trails, I think it was, I'm sorry, Kensington, yes. Grande Communication apparently was the one who damaged that. So what can we do so we don't have to bring this up again? I would like to hear from Frontier, Spectrum, AT&T.
Good evening, mayors and council. My name is Kevin Kurtz. I'm a representative of AT&T. You're right. It does get frustrating. It's frustration for the homeowners. It's frustrating for every city folk, including the right-of-way department, and it tasks y'all's utilities when any damages do happen. I know, Mr. Mayor Mitchell, I've seen your emails come across plenty of times, along with Amber's as well. From the start of this, we sat down and we did talk with Mr. Hendrix, and we had some open dialogue on what we needed to do and how we needed to, our standards and policies. What we started off with is at the beginning there was a no signage, I guess because of a city ordinance. After a few weeks, probably into it, maybe a month, we went ahead and changed and we went to a city signage to where in front of the entrances and the right-of-way areas, not in front of somebody's house, but the green space, AT&T does place a large 4x6 sign It says working for AT&T. It has my contractor's direct info number on it, as well as the help desk number that every single door, I promise you, gets one of these. I walk streets. I don't hang them all, but I do hang a few streets out of every single neighborhood. Unfortunately, a lot of times people think it's a sales ad and they'll throw it away. Sometimes they just forget about it. What we moved to, instead of doing it as a canvas, we started doing it. If I'm gonna start that street next week, we'll go 72 hours or 48 hours before that, before the flags come out into the yard and we hang them on the doors. We also sat there and on y'all's city website, we have this help desk number as well. Numerous of the emails, what I like to do is I try to push them to go towards this help desk number, okay? Emails work, just so y'all understand the scope of what I'm doing, our project over the near future, we're investing over $10 million on this I-35 corridor as far as for the units. Between the south side of Kyle up to Buda, we're doing a little over 14,000 living units just this year. So my scope is large. That's just this area. But I handle everything from Huddle to Runge. So emails, I get them. I do call back. My contractors do call back. But that's not a tracking for me. There's so many emails. So if they call in, they are tracked, and I promise you they are even seen by my upper leadership, all the way up past my executive vice president of my company. They sit there and emails start flying out. Why is this one still open when it's past 30 days, so on, so forth and so on. They do not get closed out until my help desk actually gets back a hold of that homeowner and make sure everything is handled and situated. When they don't go through that process, that's how things get slipped behind the cracks, whether they didn't get 100% done. If they had a sprinkler issue and a yard issue, maybe the sprinkler got fixed, but the rut in their yard, that was overseen. That's why I push towards this help desk so much, because that's my tracking purpose. It is construction. We're gonna have issues. There's gonna be damages. We moved, what AT&T's policy is, we did this project back in 2017 in other areas. When we put paint on the ground, or when we have the utility companies put paint on the ground, the paint is just a suggestion of where that utility is. My team has to dig and put their eyes on it before they hit it, or before they drill, in other words. Unfortunately, there's still gonna be times that we do hit things. It's construction. I mean, a drill bit gets off, sometimes it's on it, it might hit a rock, it might bounce up, sometimes it's ground, it's drilling. When we do hit, we follow all the policies. We get a hold of the correct utility companies. We notify the neighbors. We sit there and we do what we need to do to make sure that it gets resolved. We are 100% responsible for all damages and any damages. When we're said and done, I'll just give a quick process of how we do it. I let my guys drill. We don't bite off more than we can chew. I let them drill. We pull back pipe. We set boxes. There might be a day or two that, yes, we have a small hole with orange fencing. If that hole has to be left, their requirement is plywood, okay, on top of that hole. So if a small dog or something, they won't fall in. Those are the potholes that are there for the utilities, in case we still weren't able to pull the pipe all the way back. But we pull the pipe, we set the box, we do a soft restoration. I don't want to do a full restoration as far as, topsoil and seed and everything else until we pull the fiber, because if I have a pipe issue, then I have to sit there and do more construction work, and we just tear the homeowner's yard all the way back up again. Most of them understand that. Unfortunately, I am going to have some homeowners out there that they don't want AT&T, or they don't want Grande, or they don't want so-and-so, and it's just, to be honest, for just being as transparent, but no matter what I do, it's not going to please them. And I understand it. It's construction in their yard. Even though it's a utility easement or a right-of-way, it's their yard. We put a lot of hard work and effort into it. And that's why AT&T strives to leave it just as good, if not better, from when we started.
And that's what I feel like everybody wants.
Right.
Leave it to pre-existing conditions or better than
Right.
that. And I think, although you have your line of work and how you are doing the process, what I want is communication with these people. With these people, I mean the residents that are having complaints. There is a lack of communication between the companies and then the timeline of repairs. I'm pretty sure if they were to know, hey, we're gonna mess up your yard again, but by this time we should be done and everything will be fixed, then they will be understanding. But when there is none of that, then that's when probably we're hearing about it.
And there's gonna be certain instances, yes, ma'am. after we get some of the tickets, even the ones that are logged, I mean, I have emails that state, for 4, 5, 6, even sometimes over a week that we've left messages and we won't receive phone calls back, trying to figure out them to be home to turn a sprinkler system on or something like that, right? So we can figure out where it's hit at and fix it. If it gets to the point where they don't want to, I leave the option to where if they would like to call a professional sprinkler company, because that's what we use, as long as they have pictures and an invoice, that's reasonable. What I'm saying, I mean, if a sprinkler head normally from any other, lawn or irrigation system costs $75 or $100, we don't mind paying that 100%. We'll reimburse the homeowner. We like to fix it ourselves with our company, but if the homeowner has a warranty plan or something like that, we understand that as well. The ones that I can't justify my contractors to pay for is when I get a sprinkler head that's $1,200, because it does happen. I mean, I understand that, we'll fix it, but it's a sprinkler head. I mean, nobody wants to pay $1,200 for a sprinkler head. And I do have instances of that, unfortunately.
And what I'm saying doesn't go only to you, it goes to all the fiber companies. Like, I'm just talking in general. I know, I just like looking at you, but.
Yes, ma'am, and we've made strides. I mean, I've worked with Andy. We've talked on the phone, especially with Jerry and Frontier. Unfortunately, in this type of business, with subcontractors out there, we're going to have good ones and we're going to have bad ones. And we try to have a model, we try to have a process, and a lot of guys understand, hey, this is how we're putting food on our table, and they're going to follow our process and procedures and standards. The ones that we don't, I know for a fact I get rid of them. I don't let them. There's no reason for them to keep tearing up, or because if I make everybody mad in the neighborhood, who's going to buy service? Right.
Okay, so is there any way that I could get from all the fiber companies, the first person of contact, second and third?
Yes, ma'am.
I want at least 3 people that they can contact for each company.
Okay.
And if they're not getting a response, then we will have to start getting involved again.
Okay. That's not an issue with me. The other thing that we moved to is we did ask, and Jerry asked if all the trucks have their signage on it for who they're working for, because that helps out the homeowners a tremendous lot.
Okay.
Because it makes it difficult when there's a few of us in the same neighborhood, and whether I'm done or Frontier is done with their work, the homeowner truly doesn't know whose issue it was. So they'll sit there, and it takes time at that point, and the homeowner feels like they're getting the runaround. If I come to you and I sit there and say, well, I just started this, I'm not even to your street yet, or vice versa goes for Frontier, right? Then the homeowner feels like they're just getting a runaround from us. So it makes it real easy when they're clear to who's working out in front of their house. But yes, so my first point of contact, and I'll get you an email, because we do have that, would be this help desk. From there, I'll have Sean and myself on there as well. So.
And when you say help desk, is that gonna be a machine?
This help desk was set up directly for this project. It's a San Antonio local number. There's a few people in there that do nothing but answer the phones. Of course, when they don't answer, there is an automated answering service there, a voice machine, basically. There's even an after-hours 1-800 number. But I promise to you, every call gets logged, all the way down from just information.
Thank you.
So, okay, thank you
Could
all
I
for your
hear
time.
from the other companies too?
Hang on, yeah.
Okay.
So a couple things. One, to reiterate what Councilmember Parsley said, I understand your preferred method is the help desk for AT&T, but everybody, like you said, the customers, the residents, when they come to us, they're feeling violated. It's very invasive. Their yards that they work on are getting torn up. They feel like they're getting the runaround. They're coming to us. The last thing we're going to do is give them a number to a help desk. We're just not going to do that. And I understand why you would want that, because maybe your processes say that's the route that need to go to make sure that claims get handled appropriately by you guys. But these folks are very upset, and I would be too if my yard was getting torn up, especially if it gets torn up and then I can't get somebody out there to repair it, or I can't get an immediate response. But if there's a contractor out there and they bust a sprinkler head, I want them to answer immediately, not in a week or down the road. And the thing is, the city doesn't have the it's not our crews out there. It's not even our contracts that are out there. It's 100% private. It's just you have permission to work. We give you permission to work in the right of way. So for us, it's binary.
Right.
We can say yes or we can say no.
Right.
And so if it gets to a point where the amount of complaints come back, city manager issues a stop work order and just shuts it all down. And that's what has to be done in order to bring everyone to the table, which we did in the initial to get everyone to the table. And I will say this, I do think you have been very responsive. And I have found that these complaints as they're coming in, as frustrating as they are, by and large, are getting dealt with. And so that should be a feather in your hat. And so you know, I know you get beat up a lot, and I don't hold back
that's
either.
my job, right?
It is your job.
So.
And look, and this is the situation where the number one most requested thing in all my years here, and there's not even a close second, I mean, by and large, is how do we get more internet providers in the city of Kyle? That's an east and west issue. Everyone wants more options than Spectrum. This is the process they have to go through in order to get fiber, and so we're learning the beautiful role of government officials is to get complaints for not having internet, and then to get complaints when the internet's coming in, and it's just part of it. But we do need that communication to be top notch. And I agree with Councilmember Parsley. I think it is time for us to get everybody together again to make sure that that staff's aware, that we have all the updated contact information so that that can be provided to us, because we get complained to. So the more information that we have, the more we can get the residents the accurate information to solve their issues, which makes us look good, but it also helps you.
Right.
And if we don't have it, we just get real loud.
Right. And I understand. I mean, at very least, y'all have to protect your constituents, right? The residents here in the town, and I understand that completely, right? And let me rephrase when I sit there and say help desk, okay? By all means, keep sending me the email, right? I wasn't sitting there saying that. That way, the residents here understand that, yes, you're taking it serious, and that you basically, for lack of better words, have their back. But if there's a way that we can sit there and say, I'm sending it to AT&T, but also go through the help desk. And you can add them to my email or whatever it is like we've been doing, but that way I make sure it gets tracked.
Well,
when I go through thousands of these emails.
Right, but we, as the city council, as the mayor of the city, I am not a customer complaint forwarder. That's not my job, is to be the one taking 5, 6, 7 emails a day and then emailing back and telling them all the steps and outlining those things. That's your job, is to make sure. And so what our job is to do is make sure you're responding to them in a way that helps put all that information together.
Right.
It's not our role.
Right.
So.
And I understand that. And I mean, that's my policy, is to sit there and respond, whether it's myself or OTEX, within 24 hours. So that's within the first phone call, is they get something within 24 hours, if not the same day.
Well, I will say I think you have been doing that, actually, by and large. So,
yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, so you said, and I know that we've been talking about this over and over again, so I don't want to rehash it, but you're saying about this is your business model. This is why you do your business. Maybe it's time for others to start thinking outside the box on it. You got to build it first before you think outside of it. So I guess what we're getting at here is frontline third-party contact. Somebody that's boots on the ground, Mr. Jones, Mr. Miller, Mr. Vasquez, that's going to be on that street. An idea probably would be, hey, I'm going to work on your street over here in Plum Creek, and I'm going to knock on every single door and say, I'm going to be working from here on there, and whatever signage it is, and have an on-site project manager from that third-party company, to where they can respond to any kind of breaks and so forth. And then that way, that person can log it instead of the customer. Because the customer can go to that person that's on site, on the job, and go to them. And then it is that person, that project manager, whoever it is that you're contracting, contacts you, say, hey, we've got a break here. This is what we're doing. Because again, like what the mayor's saying, is that we get the brunt to where the residents are coming and saying, we don't have anybody to speak to. I understand you have a log database, because again, it just tracks the logs of the complaints and so forth. I understand it's just a database that you have to have it there. And then also it keeps track of the contractors. Okay, so they're screwing up, you're firing them. That's usually how it all works. I understand that logic there. But what we're getting at is having somebody that's boots on the ground, that is there on the street. If there is an issue going on, that person can squash it or basically address the problem going forward, and then you can work with them. I think that's what we're getting is that one-on-one communication.
Yes, sir. And so just to rebuttal on that a little bit is right now I have a total of 6 neighborhoods in effect right now here in the Kyle, a couple on the west side and a couple, and the others, primarily 4 of them on the east side. Just so you know, for Oak Tex, I have 5 project managers. That's all they do is they sit on the jobs there with the subcontractor. So there is always a manager inside one of those neighborhoods while those guys are in there drilling to handle those types of issues and knock on doors and speak with homeowners and answer any questions. So it's just, there's some things that just are unforeseen that might not happen until the weekend or the Thursday when we get to turn the sprinkler on or something because, it is underground. So, but we will try harder and better to make the difference and make the communication with the homeowners.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Flores-Kell.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm going to try to give some grace because I was not only a resident, but an elected official that was affected by somebody breaking my water line along with my neighbor's water line, and then they bounced up out of there. So luckily, we figured out how we were going to handle it. But now I have a big old pile of dirt. That's not, I guess they're laying lines and they got to come back and they got to do other things. So it's just the frustration is not because you guys are just laying lines. It's because a lot of people feel like there's a lack of respect for our property. There's, the machines, the boring machines that are like hitting the ground and causing, cracks, or there's like black marks in people's driveways and their yards are all messed up. And although you guys have the right of way, and I understand that, we still have to be respectful to our residents or your clients, possible clients, home. Because these people work really hard. And when they come home, that's not really the thing they want to see. And so I think all that we're asking for is just some kind of accountability. And even though I understand the idea of a phone call or for you, I get it because it's probably follow-up to make sure everybody's being heard. Maybe at some point, AT&T and the other vendors can think about setting up maybe an online option so the residents don't have to be on the phone. I mean, I work, so it sounds really bad when I'm on the phone with AT&T on hold, maybe not, and they're taking my information and my boss is right in the next room. So maybe if you can create maybe another option, either by text or by online, I think that would show a little bit of good faith.
Okay, I can sure bring that up to my
Okay.
department.
And I do want to confirm how the process works because they laid our lines and now it's dirt. Now, do they come back and do, at what point are they going to come back and fix the yards?
So I'm trying to Cape Cove?
Cape Cove.
Cape Cove? Yes, ma'am. So, right, they got the pipe in the ground and they got the boxes set over there. They haven't pulled the fiber yet in that area. I'm having a few issues with a certain, let's just say, personnel issue over there that I am in the middle of fixing at the moment. But I do have other resources that are actually pretty much on site. I'm trying to get that whole entire project completed within the first week of March. So when I say completed, my objective is to not only have the fiber pulled, but everything 100% restored. If it's a smaller area around those boxes, we come in with fresh topsoil and seed, because if you start cutting little squares of carpet grass this big, it never takes, right? So a little bit of just good Mother Nature, hopefully that we get some and some fresh topsoil and seed, and within a couple of months, it's all back to regular. But that's normally how it is, the pipe, the boxes, then we pull fiber, and then we restore 100%. Like I said, I do like to do a soft restoration. I will make sure to take a trip over there again, because the piles of dirt were supposed to be removed, because that's part of my soft restoration. If there's a box in the ground, of course, something that went in the ground means earth had to come out, right? So if it came out and it's no longer needed, why is it still there?
Well, it's kind of rained, so it's kind of dispersed, which is okay. I'm okay with that.
But it's work, and it's trying to be politically correct, but I mean it's hard. It's construction, and sometimes it's hurting cats. I mean, for a better lack of terms, right? I mean, you're trying to get all these people to follow a certain process, and the majority of them do, and all of a sudden, they're in a hurry for one day on a restoration, and you know what? You'll be looking at your neighbors, and it's great, 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 and this was a Friday or a Saturday that they're trying to go home to a kid's soccer game, and they maybe not did it as well, you know, and they left a few steps off. And those are the types of things that just infuriate me. I mean, because
There's been some huge empty spools that
those
have
need to
just
be
been
removed.
left out there.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's just cleanup, you know? If they
Right.
could just do that, I would be super appreciative.
So what I also did is they, just so y'all know, they used to travel all the way from San Antonio, from the east side of San Antonio for me. That was where they brought their yard in. But what they did is, since they have the amount of project that we're doing here in the thing, they actually, I don't know if they're leasing or if they just bought some. Is it off of 1650 or 16? It's up Kyle this way on the way to Buda, but it is in Kyle. They just bought, okay, yeah, that one.
Other way, 1626 probably, right?
So, but yeah, so they just bought some property, and so they're working on a yard right there. They do have some stuff in there. They're just not quite finished with it yet. They're having to bring some base in because it was an old farm field. But that's where all those empty reels, and they're not supposed to be storing anything in the neighborhoods or anything like that, you know, without HOA approval if it's in one of their green spaces or something, so.
Well, my only concern is we're right next to a school. It's
Right.
like kids walk on there. So
Oh,
if
100%.
I were a kid, I'd just jump on it and
Me too.
it would be fun. But
So, but yes, I'll do more diligence on my part as far as going around and really pushing the issue as far as the cleanup phase of it and that sort of thing. And then also to make sure that the guys are being more respectful, like the plywood underneath the machines and stuff. So, but rest assured, even if there are some track marks, they are supposed to pressure wash, and I will make them pressure wash.
I appreciate that. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, thank y'all for y'all's time. Oh, any more questions?
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we
Appreciate
get
it.
information from all the other representatives? At least 3 contact.
So in our sign at the front of our subdivision, it has like a phone number and a name. And so I hate to just direct people to that, but it's gonna probably be the same information that they give us. But it'll say, this is being done by AT&T, this is the person working on it, and this is the
Okay.
phone number.
Yes, ma'am. It's got the help desk number on it. It has our logo, AT&T. It has Oak Tex, which is my prime contractor for all of Kyle. And then it actually has the head, I guess you can call it director of Oak Tex, Sean Purvis, with his number. So he's the one that manages all the managers that are out here. So it's a first point of contact with him. So, all right.
Thank you.
Councilmember,
Thank
We're compiling that information. We'll send it to all of council.
Thank you so much, Jerry.
All right. Anything else you want to add on that? What's that?
Frontier, do you want to hear from Frontier?
Are you Frontier?
Yes, absolutely.
Most
I
people
just didn't
don't just
want to make
volunteer.
it long.
I was about to make a snide comment about the fact that
The
we're
complaint
here.
is
I'm
just
glad you're here.
all
Thank you.
over.
Got a haircut, I wore my good suit, come on.
Yeah.
So good evening, Mayor and members of the council, city staff, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Russell. I'm Vice President of External Affairs for Frontier Communications, and I was last here in April of last year, you may remember, when I told you about our plans to build our high-speed fiber optic network here. With me then, and also with me now, are Ryan O'Neill, who is our Director of Fiber Optic Construction for the state of Texas, and also our Senior Manager of Construction in South Texas, Andy Crenshaw. Our numbers and contact information were all provided to the city at that time, and we haven't changed. One of the things that we have changed that you might be interested in, I'm not going to go over a lot of the ground that the previous speaker covered. He did a real good job of covering a lot of the challenges that we face. We do the signage, we do the door hangers, we have the call-in numbers, but last year when I was here, we had questions or concerns from the citizens go to our contractors. Because Frontier has ramped up our fiber optic build throughout Texas so extensively, we're actually doing this in dozens of communities now, we changed that policy, and we no longer put that on the backs of the contractors because that also didn't always work real well. What we have, we created a call center with our own in-house resources that we have dedicated numbers for people to call as well as an online option. And I can provide all that to the city manager or whoever you want me to provide that information to. That is different. That's new. That was created a couple of months ago. And so a lot of the door hangers and the information that we provided when we first started our build here last year is not up to date. This is more current information. And the call center is not somewhere in some other part of the country. It's here in Texas. It's got a bunch of people that are, yes, they do get a voicemail. They do leave a voicemail message, but they're dedicated just to respond to those calls. But the rest of us have our contact information available to the city. If you want to contact somebody directly, we're not trying to hide from anybody about that. We have completed builds to over 4,000 homes already since we started construction last year as of the end of last month. We still have about something over 9,500 customer locations that we plan to build to this year, which we think will take us through most of the year. The other thing that's changed from last year when I was here, last year on February the 22nd, which we all know now is George Washington's birthday, we announced that we were upping our speeds from 1 gigabit to 2 gigabits per second, download and upload.
Hang on, did you say that you've already installed fiber in 4,500 homes?
That's
in the city of Kyle?
over 4,100 right now.
In the city of Kyle?
That's correct.
And your plans are 13,000 more?
Plans are for about 9,600 more.
Oops, I'm sorry, 13, I was doing the math.
Yes, sir.
Too fast. So
Yes.
13,000 total, so that's like 2/3 of the dwellings in the city.
Yeah, it's
right?
pretty much it follows the path of our copper network that was pre-existing. And so we call that our base rate area. That doesn't always line up with city limits because the city limits probably has grown some over the years because our network obviously has been here for decades.
Well, that's good news and bad news. The good news is that we actually are going to be providing internet to the majority of our community. The bad news is you're going to be here a while in people's yards, and so those complaints
That's
are going to
correct.
continue
As
coming.
you identified, that's part of the process.
Yeah, well, it is part of the process, but we just want to be excellent at it. And we're not saying that you aren't, because I've even mentioned it a couple times. I do believe that complaints as they're coming in are generally getting dealt with, because as I'm seeing the emails and they don't keep coming back. So I am thankful for that part of it, but we just want to be even more proactive, because a lot of these complaints that are coming in, I'm reading through it, I'm looking at the pictures, I'm seeing the testimonies of what folks are dealing with in the few days that the construction is there, and it's traumatic. I don't know what people are experiencing a lot of trauma from this experience that they're going through, because they're not asking for the internet and therefore bringing a contractor out to install the line. That line is coming whether they're asking for it or not, and it's coming right into their yard. So it's just, we don't have to keep belaboring the point here.
Right.
We've already discussed it a lot. So, but the point is, even though you've already given us your contact information, I do appreciate y'all being here. That actually made me feel a lot better to know that y'all were sitting in here. Just resend all that information to us. Make sure you're continuing to contact and communicate with Amber in particular, who's been a great point of contact, and Jerry as well. And then Amber and Jerry, if y'all can help compile that information, resend it out to council, making sure we're all aware. So as people are communicating to us, we've got a package that we can send back, and then everything else that we've discussed.
Well, and that's one reason I'm here, to let you know, we heard you loud and clear. Well, we've got my construction leaders here. We get this, and
Yes.
we, like the other speaker, we don't want to piss a lot of people off.
Right.
So, yeah, we're in the same page on that.
So can you also give us some kind of schedule for when you're going to be in particular neighborhoods, and so that we can kind of have a sense of like, hey, this is kind of what's
We make
coming
the
and how
city
long?
aware of that, but that's something that's kind of proprietary because, and I'm sure our competitors like that as well, we don't necessarily want them to know exactly where we're going because we don't want them to try to lock somebody into a multi-year contract.
Fair enough, but here's what people are experiencing. Here comes AT&T. They're digging up my yard. They're putting in this line. Okay, they're finally out. They're done. They've restored it. It's over. The trauma is past. Oh, here comes Frontier. Now they're digging up my yard yet again, and that's and people don't know. They're like, is there going to be more? Mm-hmm. So they're begging us to bring some kind of unified plan so that they can know when it's coming, and that, for crying out loud, please don't dig up my yard multiple times over the course of a couple months. That seems like really ineffective, from an efficiency standpoint, which I understand I understand how it goes, but look, we've got to have some kind of say in this as well, to make sure that we're not just digging up people's yards over and over again. What if a third one comes in? What if a fourth one wants to come in? It's sort of like a wave of fiber installation is happening, and the people aren't ordering the service. That's the main difference. It's just happening to their yards over and over again. It's very frustrating to them and to me almost every single time.
One difference, of course, is that because my company is the incumbent local exchange company, we already had a network here that we're updating. It's not a different network coming in from a competitor that wasn't here previously.
Councilor Flores.
I'm going to piggyback off of what Mayor Mitchell said, because it's important that the people understand this is round one, right? This is, if we lay down a couple lines, and I reached out to Jerry about maybe doing conduits in the city, being able to do the lines ourselves and then renting those conduits out. That way, if providers wanted to come, they would just rent from us.
The municipal broadband, there's a TEDx talk. We invited, this is taken back to 2017, we once invited the TEDx speaker, and he flew down here to make a full-on presentation for exactly what you're saying, municipal broadband, which is probably freaking these guys out a little bit. Sorry. We
You're
very
already
much
in there,
looked
you're
into
good.
it, and at the time, it was like $15 million worth of infrastructure. And we
Oh, but
didn't-
it would have paid for itself just by the people that rent it.
15 million, it was a lot.
It is,
5,
still
6
is.
years ago. It's still a lot, but it was a lot back then. There was no chance that we could do it, but.
Well, my point was being that this is going to happen again, and I'm sad. My yard is probably going to get dug up again, and so hopefully there's a good enough trail that people don't make that same mistake 3 times. But yeah, just people be aware that this could happen again. This could be in the next 5 years, depending on who wants to come to
One
Kyle.
thing I hope will be encouraging to people is that one of the beauties of a fiber optic network is that, I was just saying, we increased our speeds to 2 gigabits. Well, just a few months ago, we increased it to 5 gigabits. The beauty of this type of network is it's scalable to much higher speeds. And so this is not a network that's going to have to be replaced several decades from now. This is a network that should be in place for many years. The copper network was in place for about 130 years. It just outlived its usefulness. It can't handle the capacity anymore. This network should last that long as well. So I know it's a lot of pain, but it's a short-term pain for long-term gain.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's move on. Thank you. All right, next up is agenda item number 28. Consider approval of an agreement with P3 Works LLC for administrative services for tax increment reinvestment zone number 2. We've had some preliminary discussions about the desires to put together an updated project financing plan. We don't have anyone retained or with the capability to do that on staff, but John Snyder with P3 Works is a specialist in that. He's been handling so many of our special district financing administrative roles. We're getting ready to have a TIRZ workshop. And I was hoping that the council would go ahead and authorize John to start the work so that when we have our workshop on the 2nd, he can bring forward a plan or the rough outline of a plan that we could interact with. And so I wanted to bring this forward and ask for council's support to engage him in that way. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to consider approval for agenda number 28.
Second.
Motion by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Flores-Scales. There's discussion on the motion. Councilmember Flores-Scales.
I just want to reiterate, this is only for a plan, right?
Right,
We're
yes.
just- Okay,
Right.
this means nothing more than just create a plan that makes us more informed, so if we do
Correct.
make a decision in the future, we are better educated.
That's it. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, John. Thank you, Stephanie. All right, next up is agenda item 29, approve a task order number 6 to Cobb Finley and Associates in amount not to exceed $19,403.05 for traffic signal versus roundabout analysis and design for Daisy Lane at Button Creek Road intersection improvements. Mr. Barba.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leon Barba, City Engineer. Mayor and Council, back on December 6th of 2022, you accepted the report that was done by Cobb Finley. And their goal was to determine whether we needed, whether those 2 intersections on Button Creek Road at Lehman and at Daisy Lane met traffic warrants. And they did their study, and it showed that they did meet the warrants for installing traffic signals or a roundabout. The next step that we need to take is we have to follow the ordinance, and we have to ask them to look at the viability of installing either a traffic signal or a roundabout at the intersection of Daisy Lane and Button Creek Road. We were given direction to look at that intersection and making improvements there. Just so that you know, the second mobile traffic signals are supposed to be in next week, so we'll be putting those out there in the meantime. But this item is to request that the council to approve Cobb Finley to go ahead and move forward with the permanent installation of either a traffic signal or a roundabout and bring that recommendation back to council.
I'd like to ask a question.
Councilmember Parsley.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 29.
Second.
All right,
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Parsley, seconded by Councilmember Flores-Scales. There's discussion on the motion. Councilmember Zuniga.
Yeah, so I wanted to make a specific point here. So this agenda item is to compare the roundabout versus the traffic signal, correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
So if you read this part of the analysis, the roundabout is significantly going to cost more, is what they conclude. Because we have to purchase more right-of-way, we have to deal with drainage, we have to deal with improvements. And so I just want council to understand that the roundabouts cost more, and in terms of the walkability, I don't think they're as safe as streetlights. So just when you're looking at this right here does give a very good analysis between the two differences. So I just wanted to point that out before we just go to a yes vote. So this is only for the analysis that we're approving?
That is correct.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, exactly. This is what it's for. And we've done that already with Lehman and Bunton. Again, we want to make sure that in this intersection right here, that it has to justify what do we call line of service, correct? And
Level of
so-
service, yes, sir.
Level of service in this area. So that's what it is, because I understand that there's some people for roundabouts and some people for the traffic signals. Oh, I'm sorry. There's just conversation in chambers, I'm sorry. So yes, that's all it is just so that way we can get an analysis, so that way we can see if this exact intersection qualifies it or not.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, motion carries 6-0. Next up is agenda item 30, consider impossible action to approve a cooperation agreement in lieu of taxes between Kyle Housing Authority and the City of Kyle. Mr. Hendrix.
Mayor and Council, for the record, Jerry Hendrix, Interim City Manager. As we continue to work with the Housing Authority to help them get their ship in order and move to a position of financial viability, they brought to our attention that there's been an agreement in place since 1977 that's a HUD required agreement that requires them to pay to the city an amount in lieu of taxes. And obviously, they haven't been in a position to pay those. They've been carrying 5 years in arrears in their receivables, and they've asked us to consider for them if we, and the agreement that we're working on is included in your backup, and if you can read it, make sense of it, you're better than I am. So there's a couple questions they've asked us to work with them on. One is to develop a new agreement, or that would either redefine the payment in lieu of taxes or waive the payment in lieu of taxes in the future. They've also asked us to consider waiving the 5 years that they're currently carrying in arrears, which amounts to just over $29,000. So I guess what I'm asking is direction from you on how you'd like me to proceed with this HUD required agreement with the Housing Authority.
Any discussion? Councilor Flores-Kell.
This is a tough conversation, for sure. But I'm going to tell you, I was with you when I took my tour. And I saw the people out there, and we talked to them. And we already know the condition that this area financially is at, right? Not the area, but the Pete Dresden. It wouldn't, for me, it doesn't make any sense to collect this money knowing that they are already struggling and that we're helping them. So I understand it's $29,000. I understand it's a lot of money. I just feel like it's okay for them to at least waive the last, maybe going forward if we figure something out, but I'm not. I'm okay with waiving the $29,000.
Want to make a motion?
Yes,
I
I
wanna
would.
ask another question, too.
Can I make a motion first?
Yep. Councilor Flores-Kell
I
still
got
got the
a
floor.
lot of
Hang on.
questions this time.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to waive the 5-year period in taxes owed to the city by Pete, is it Pete Dresden?
Kyle Housing Authority.
Kyle Housing Authority, in the amount of $29,301.08.
Second.
All right, the motion is by Councilor Flores-Kell, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem, that we waive the taxes owed in arrears. Do you want to include waiving the payment in lieu of taxes moving forward?
Can we discuss that maybe
5 years.
during a different time?
Well, let me just,
Okay, wait, let's talk about that.
So what I want to say is, I mean, I compare this to the alcohol sales vote, strangely enough, because we had on the books that we were supposed to be collecting a fee. We chose not to collect it on to businesses on the basis of alcohol sales, which was very, very much, in my opinion, a justified fee to collect. But it has always been our intention. We have never even sought or contemplated seeking payment from the Kyle Housing Authority in lieu of taxes. And so this is a situation where they're trying to clear up their books. So if that, I mean, my opinion is that we should stay with the intention and the spirit of what the Kyle Housing Authority is and take this off. It's like, no, we have negotiated pilots for certain other affordable housing projects, but those are differently constructed. They don't have, and literally we're helping them with funding and paying off their debts and things like that. And then to tell that they owe us money back doesn't make sense just because it's already on their books. So I would ask that you would amend and let's just go ahead and make it a clear that we are not anticipating tax payments from the Housing Authority.
Okay, I would like to amend my motion, please, to include also waiving all future tax payments from the Kyle Housing Authority.
Is that agreeable to the second?
Second.
All right, so we're gonna just consider that one motion, and that motion is to waive the money in arrears and also to waive payments in lieu of taxes moving forward. Is there discussion on that motion? Councilor Zuniga.
So I just wanted to point out, I believe we paid off that loan, USDA loan.
We're working on paying off that loan. There's a process, the
And
Housing
now,
Authority.
and we also rehabilitated those affordable housing units, right?
Correct. We're working with the Housing Authority now to confirm the repairs that have been made for the $75,000 we donated to them. And
So are we saying up here that we're waiving taxes for forever here?
Yes. That's what I would like to see. This is
Now,
not normal low income.
Don't we already have exemptions for
this is
affordable
payment in
housing
lieu of
unit?
taxes since they are tax exempt, but HUD requires an agreement to be made between Housing Authority and the municipality addressing if a payment in lieu of those taxes is to be made. So I was going to suggest as part of your motion, whatever your motion is, to direct staff to bring back an agreement reflecting the terms outlined in your motion.
Out of curiosity, because I know this was from 1969? And they're not grandfathered in, I don't know how the taxes looks like back then, but were they required to pay city taxes since they were a low income?
They're not required to pay city taxes. This was a payment in lieu of taxes.
Okay,
to the
but was
municipality.
that in effect back in 1969, or one document says 69, but you said
It's been
77?
in effect forever. I think they only carry 5 years in the arrears for their accounting.
Okay. Once again, I would like to amend my motion to include direction to, do you want me to just restate the whole thing, or, okay. I would like to I would like to amend my motion to waive the past due amount from the Kyle Housing Authority in the amount of $29,301.08 to waive any future taxes, not taxes, what is it? Payments to be made to the city of Kyle, and to direct staff to bring back an agreement for council to review.
All right, so I think that was a perfect motion, actually. So is everybody clear on the motion? Jennifer's probably like, I don't know. All right, so we're clear, and if you have direct questions. So it's the payments to waive the motion by Councilmember Flores-Cale. It's seconded by Councilmember Parsley. It's to waive the payments that are due to the city in arrears, the payments that are contemplated to be paid for the future, and to bring back an amendment to their agreements that memorialize that direction. Is there discussion on that motion?
No.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
If to make it clear for everybody on this issue here, it's going to help the Housing Authority to get back up to par as far as helping remodel, helping the residents that are there, helping those that really need the help. There are people there that are elderly, and there are people there that live there that are disabled, that have a very, very minimum income, whether it's Social Security or whatever it is. So this is our way of being able to help this authority get back on track and helping our residents that are struggling there, and also to keep the facility itself and the property, the proper upkeep that it needs. So it's a win on this situation there. And I understand that some people are going to say, you guys are waiving taxes for this place, but it's a staple of our community. Everybody knows the two locations we're talking about, and so it's just the city assisting this housing authority to make it a new reinvestment back in.
Thank you. All right, anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries 6-0. Next up, agenda item 31, first reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 53, zoning of the City of Kyle, Texas, for the purpose of rezoning approximately 14.75 acres of land from warehouse to office institutional for property located at 400 Old Post Road in Hays County, Texas, vertical church. This item has a public hearing. Mr. Atkinson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Will Atkinson, Planning Director for the record. Before you, we have a request by Vertical Chapel or their representatives at 400 Old Post Road to rezone their church site, which is about 14.75 acres, from warehouse to office institutional. Right here you can see the image right next to Post Oak, the subdivision right there. Immediately around it to the west is warehouse that's undeveloped. To the north and to the south are areas zoned ag, which with very low development on it. And to the east is the Post Oak subdivision, which is zoned R12 and single family. The existing zoning district is warehouse, which means you can do a lot in there. There's very few restrictive uses on there. It goes all the way from the uses you can have in downtown Kyle all the way out to logistics. And quite honestly, for what they want to do, this zoning district that they're requesting is better served for the church site for OI.
All right, thank you, Mr. Atkinson. If there are no objections, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak on this item? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Parsley. Is there discussion on the motion? Councilmember Flores-Kill.
I just have, my only concern is, and I know why they're doing this, it's for parking, but my only concern is how this would maybe possibly affect any future use.
It actually further limits uses that are already allowed in our zoning use chart. The office institutional zoning district is not part of the full use chart that we have. It has its own separate one, so it's extremely limited. So mostly office type uses, municipal type uses for like government kind of stuff, schools and that kind of stuff. Where warehouses, you can have a lot of stuff like logistics and semis going up and down the road and all that kind of stuff.
SOBs.
And that was in the backup, and I appreciate that. I was just skimming through both of them, like, I just want retail. But no, I get it. Thank you.
If I was living in Post Oak neighborhood, I'd rather have this zoning
Right.
district that they're requesting.
Yeah.
Because they did reach out. There was concerned people, and we did a good job just keeping up with them. I know Alex Carrera answered some questions, and I think a few of them came to the P&Z meeting just genuinely interested. Maybe not. They said they did. But yeah, thank you.
All right, anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries 6-0. All right, next up is agenda item 32, second reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 53 of the City of Kyle, Texas for the purpose of rezoning approximately 18.84 acres of land from retail services to planned unit development for property located at 400 feet southwest of the intersection of Marketplace Ave and City Lights Drive. We've discussed this a lot, so I'll just make a motion to approve. Second. Motion by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Parsley. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries 5-1. All right, next up is agenda item number 33. This item was originally postponed to the last meeting. Considering possible action to direct staff to bring back reports regarding City of Kyle Board's goals to include new projects, future activities, and/or local, state, federal grant possibilities for the year 2023. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Exactly what it's stated here in the agenda item is I want to be able to get an update from all the boards and commissions that you see listed here below. We appointed a lot of these individuals to these boards, and since we're not unfortunately having a workshop at this time, I'd like to be able to get at least some kind of feedback as far as what their plans are for the year, any kind of budget future activities, especially grants. And so with that, I want to go ahead and make a motion according to the agenda item to direct staff to bring back reports regarding the Kyle board's goals, including the future projects and any grants for state and local for the next year.
Second. Tobias, you're
Okay, yes, okay, so I made the motion to go and approve. It was seconded by Councilmember Parsley. Okay, for those all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. We have a question?
Mayor Pro Temp, would you like to see the Animal Advisory Committee in there? Or, because that meets 4 times a year, my meeting's in April. And, because I know there's a lot of momentum moving with volunteer work. And maybe the Train Depot Committee, I know it's not, they're planning an Easter thing, but do you want to include more? Or is this just the list you want?
These were the ones that I had listed for now. Councilman Zuniga, if we were to add those, we could. But as far as right now, these were the ones that I had proposed to get updated on those.
Could we?
If you like, I can go ahead and make the motion to amend. Go ahead,
Because we
Councilman
also have
Corsica.
the railroad, or
The Kyle Depot?
the depot
Okay.
committee.
All right.
And can I just say that, like, I know the art committee has like minutes. I think all of them have minutes, but it would be interesting, or it'd be nice if we could get those passed out to all of council, like when they're given to staff could hand them out to us. And so that way, we're updated every month along with everybody else as well.
Okay. Well, with that, if I'll go ahead and make an amended motion to also to include make a motion to direct staff to bring back reports regarding Kyle board's goals, new projects, future activities, and local state grants possibilities for the Arts Commission, Library Board, Parks and Recreation, Economic Development and Tourism Board, Planning and Zoning Commission, Kyle Train Depot, and I believe there's one more.
The animal shelter, if you
Animal-
want the minutes from those meetings.
And the Kyle Animal Shelter. And Councilmember Parsley seconds the motion. Is there any other discussion? Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 4 to 5.
4 to 5.
4 to 5.
4 to 5.
5-0. 5-0. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. All right, next up is agenda item 34. This item is postponed to our last meeting. Consider possible action to add more trailhead signage and amenities at Plum Creek Bike Trails, such as benches, signage, tables, trash containers, viewing platform, bike wash station, etc. Councilmember Zuniga.
Well, thank you, Mayor. So I know that there's been a lot of discussion about getting the vibe, getting the natural trails, how they're separated, and then some of the bike trails. There's really a real passionate push for how great this can be for our entire city, how some of the natural will go further southeast into Uland and come back around. So just to get some things for the natural and for the bike trails, I think it would be good to have larger trailhead signage of where the bike trails start in certain locations. And I did add some backup of like some very nice looking trailheads where you can actually put some signage or something that would look beautiful if it looks natural to complement the those bike trails. And another thing is many users of mountain bikes, hikers, and walkers, they wouldn't appreciate a certain bike wash area so that you can kind of wash away the dirt and dust from those natural trails. And that would be more of an added amenity, quality of life, And along those natural trails, if we could really think about sort of viewing platforms or little markers. And I would also like to see if we could look at whether we can bring more wildlife into the trails or the creeks. So I've noticed that somehow at Memorial Park, Heroes Memorial, there's been a large flock of ducks that are now in the water, and it looks really nice. So what do we need to do to kind of have maybe beavers or squirrels or turtles, something in the Plum Creek as well, so that as you walk and enjoy that natural walk, you see the animal wildlife come back. So these are just things that I know there's a lot of money, or there's some funding set aside, so we can pocket a little bit of it. Another great addition would be an outdoor small restroom along the trails. I know there's some developments are already doing that as part of the vibe, but these are just the things I would like to kind of push for, or just keep it in mind and see if we can do a few of these small things along the way, which I know are going to be very well incorporated for everyone to use. So would council be, I guess, okay with giving direction to staff to maybe consider for some early things while we're waiting for the full trails to be built? Just get us a few smaller things that go well with the planning.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, so you kind of lost me on the wildlife. 'Cause I don't know if we're looking at getting squirrels somewhere or beavers. That comes natural with with the territory of the area. Okay, I don't think we can have a budget for that. But could this be something? These ideas that he's bringing forward could be something that be added, Mariana, in the Parks Department budget sessions coming up, or if these things are already being planned for the area in the next year or two. What he's saying about bringing signages, park benches and stuff like that. What's the overall plan for that specific area?
Mariana Espinoza, Parks and Recreation Director. So all the elements that Councilmember Zuniga did mention do fall within the ILA that we have with the Hays County with the bond money for the improvement of the natural trails on the east side. We just haven't specific and narrowed it down quite yet.
Okay, so it'd be something that we can look at as far as the areas of what he's, what we're trying to get accomplished and so forth. So it could be just a plan that you'll eventually bring to council. Say this is what we have in the budget for this coming up year. These are the park benches that we're putting aside and signages, and this is what they'll look like.
Yeah, but at the recommendation of the park board at the last park board meeting, our park board chair will be coming to council at the next council meeting to recommend that we reorganize the Trails Task Force. And once the Trails Task Force is reorganized, if approved, then we'll post the RFQ for the trail improvements.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Councilor Flores-Kale.
All right, thank you. So the two backup item pictures that he put on there were a really good idea. I like it's like did you see them? It's like,
I did not.
Oh, someone put them up there?
Yeah,
So one is it's like a little frame, and then it has the whole trail system. And so, I mean, I'm sure that's like interchangeable. You can like remove it as we grow, but it would be really cool to say like you are here, and then like kind of show where the trails are. And then the other one, oh gosh, I like the idea of it. I don't know where we would get water from, but it's like a bike washing station. I don't really bike, but I think it's very considerate. For sure, I like the first one, which is just a map that shows you where you're at and where the trails are. So maybe that's something you guys can think about when you bring it back.
Well, trail machinery and interactive kiosks are both on bullet points for the ILA.
Okay.
So they would fall within those categories.
Okay, thank you.
I think we have our heading.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Nice.
All right, next up is agenda item 35, consider impossible action to add 2 additional Uber rides for residents of Cobb within the city of Cobb city limits. Councilor Zuniga.
Okay, so there's I'm trying to understand the Uber program, and there's 10 monthly trips allowed to each resident. And some residents have asked me, is it possible to increase those monthly trips because they're viewing it as they only really get 5 trips. And I can kind of see their point, because to get to point A to B, well, to get to A to B, back the other way around, it's going to cost them 2 Uber rides. So I'm also hearing that residents that are at grocery stores are getting passed up through the Uber program. They are waiting longer because they are at a grocer or at a Walmart. And some residents who don't have a vehicle or not driving anymore, the elderly, want to be able to get to events, a few more events each month. They want to get to church, and they want to go back home. So they're asking me, can we increase 2 more Uber rides for people, teenagers, who probably need to get somewhere and back, and people that want to enjoy more extra activities, and they're really feeling like they're not getting enough vouchers out of the monthly program. I don't use the Uber ride, so I think I would be willing to give mine away. So I can't really see where everybody's using them. So would we be taking a loss financially if we gave extra Uber rides?
So to answer your questions, the Uber, we have the 3 different levels of service for the Uber program. One is Kyle Uber 314, which is the base product. You get 3 one-way trips, or 10 one-way trips a month. The rider pays the first $3.14. City pays the next 10. If it goes over that amount, then the remainder goes back to the rider. We also have 2 one-way trips to Austin Bergstrom Airport. The rider pays roughly 32%, and the city pays the remaining 68%. And then we have the trips to the VA, which are set up similar to the Uber program. The veterans pay the first $3.14, the city pays the rest. So to add trips to any of those programs really, but to the Kyle Uber 314 program, all you have to do is ask.
Well, I guess so. This is the ask. Can we add 2 more rides
Sure,
to the program? Because I think it's a great program. I think I love that people are actually using it, and sometimes they've emailed me, hey, I used this Uber to get to the airport today. So
I have a thought on it, or a suggestion. So, because I thought your comment about you not using it was actually pretty appropriate. Because, I use it when I need it. Like the other day, I needed to get my car oil changed and an inspection done, which is total convenience for me. But I had to leave my vehicle there, and I used the Uber to get back home, and it cost me $3, and it was a great public transportation service, and I used it to get back. It was great, but that was 2. And I might do that once every month or 2. Another option might be like Super Bowl night. If I went out and was having drinks or something, that's another. But that's one category of Uber rider or participant in the program. But the other category is someone who's using it to get to work, or regular trips to HEB because they have an actual impairment, or can't drive, don't have a license, those kind of things, and they have a higher need. So as opposed to saying across the board, let's give everyone an extra 2, that's going to do people like me nothing, because I don't even use 10. And someone who's using it that frequently, it's only going to help them 1 extra ride in the month. So if we're really wanting to make an impact, perhaps we could have an application system. I don't know how complicated or challenging this would be, but where, say you're needing it to commute to work, and you can show a hardship, and they make a request to the city of Kyle, and we would grant it, in which case we might give them 30.
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
or
I didn't
40.
want to make it means tested. That's why I was afraid of means testing it.
Well, that's why
But
I was saying an application as opposed
But
to
I
just.
do like your idea. I'd like that.
Well, I don't have a solution right now, but that was my kind of, more of my feedback was to allow for people who do use it more frequently, who have not out of convenience, but out of hardship,
Yes.
or, you know, financial hardship potentially, many more vouchers. But Councilmember Parsley.
Thank you. I think the Uber program needs a whole workshop because there's so many things that I feel like if this is the direction we want to go with for public transportation, do we want to have our own fleet of cars with the Kyle logo saying Uber Kyle? But to that point, it's like, who are we really trying to help? Will Uber be able to help staff some of the new restaurants? Is that why we are not having enough people, you know, staff in these places? Are we trying to help? This is the kind of population we're trying to help. So maybe proving some sort of hardship or lack of transportation to get to work is something that I don't know how we can incorporate to see if those people that are in really need of transportation help can get more than just like the 10 Uber rides. I have never used it, so I could be happy to give mine away, but I feel like it needs to be a whole workshop on where do we want to go with Uber. The other thing I wanted to add to that is like we went to visit the Marla's place in San Marcos. There is somebody that lives in that housing that has to bike to Cal to go to work. So that's a person in need that I don't know how we can expand to specific places like the women's shelter for her to take an Uber to go to work and not have to ride back and forth from San Marcos. So that's why I'm thinking the discussion is gonna be so,
Right.
it's so big that, I mean, I don't mind like approving the 2 more, but I don't think that we need to stop in there. We need to really address how we wanna help the people in need in Kyle.
Possibilities are endless, but I would say to start with, you know, I can look at who's got vouchers and how many of their vouchers that they use. And most people don't use all 10, but obviously there's some people that need more.
Right.
And I don't want to get into the business of saying who's got a hardship or who doesn't.
Why not? That's what affordable housing is based on.
Right,
The
but I'm not
entire
the one making that
subsidy.
decision.
Right.
So,
Well, I guess my point would be, like, for example, if somebody was making less than $15 an hour for employment, all they would have to do is show that they're making less than $15 an hour, and they would immediately qualify for increased vouchers.
I was just gonna say-
It could be that simple.
Fixed
Right.
income.
I was just going to suggest increasing the cap to 30 or removing the cap altogether.
So make it, make it unlimited rides?
It'd be like a bus. You can ride the bus as many times as you want as long as you have the fare.
Could you run some numbers on what you think that might look like? How many people, because I think our last month we did 1,500 Uber rides. So, and those are direct subsidies out of the general fund. So how many of those 1,500 were people who used it 10 times? You know, and that would give us at least a sense of what kind of financial
Sure, never
impact
look at
that might would make. But I see where you're going now that you say it that way. There is some potential value there. The actual cap may or may not make a whole lot of sense at all. But, you know, and to be clear, you in your heading, you wrote residents of Kyle within the city of Kyle city limits. Our geofence actually goes to our ETJ. And the thinking is because they can't go to San Marcos, we're not paying them to go to San Marcos, but if someone lives in our ETJ, they can get a subsidized ride into the city because they're coming in to, you know, either work or to spend money. And I think that was how it was initially set up. So you're right, we do need a full briefing on what it is, but it would be good to, I think, find out. Do you think you could find out with the information you have, or would you have to try to contact Uber to get that?
I had a question. I had a text from a resident. They said, what if we created a bank and residents are able to bank them so others can have them?
Well, I think that'd be really hard, but I think what Jerry's saying is just stop with the cap altogether, because really, if you're using it that much, obviously it's valuable to you, and we don't really necessarily want to stop you from using it because it's working. And I will actually ask both of you, because you both said you don't use it. And I wanted to clarify with the question. You don't use Uber in the city of Kyle, or you don't use the voucher? So you do Uber, you just don't use the
Right, I
voucher.
don't use the voucher, that's all.
But you do
But
Uber?
yes, Uber is definitely great to use.
Right, so but you're saying you're spending the full amount to Uber in
Oh,
around
no,
Kyle?
my wife will get an Uber for us to go places that are new to us. We don't know the area, so Austin, for example.
Right,
But you don't Uber within Kyle.
I have not yet.
right. But if you were going to take an Uber within Kyle, you'd probably use the voucher,
Yeah.
right? Exactly. So that's sort of the point. It's there, and you don't want to necessarily, it's available for everyone, but those who would use it as a convenience just may not use it quite as often, because it works. Like when I used my Uber, I didn't have the voucher, and you go to the City of Kyle apps, I had the voucher plugged into Uber and subsidized like that. It was like 10 seconds is how long it took. It was pretty impressive. So you want to run that analysis and bring that back?
And in response to people at grocery stores having a hard time finding rides, the big caveat for this program is rides are based on availability. So if you're at the grocery store during a peak time, it may take you a while longer to find an Uber and for the Uber to find you. But we get those complaints from time to time, but running 1,500 rides a month, and we might get 3 complaints. It's pretty good.
Yep.
Pretty good ratio. But we're happy to do, the program was initially, the vision for the program was to help people that are ride dependent or ride challenged. So from our perspective, the more available we can make those rides, the better.
Yeah. And I think the reason we put the cap initially is we just weren't sure how much demand there was going to be. So we were trying to sort of preserve, our cash to make sure that we were using it the best. that we
Continues to
could.
grow. I never imagined we'd be doing this kind of ridership.
Yeah, it's been pretty awesome.
And we get lots of requests from other cities to model our program. We got one just a couple days ago.
Awesome. All right, any other discussion? All right, thank you. All right, next up is agenda item 36, discussion and possible action regarding providing direction to the Art Commission to research cost types and locations of a statute to place within statute.
Oh, did I spell that wrong?
Statue, we'll go on in that.
Who made
Yeah.
this agenda?
To place within the city of Kyle.
All right.
Pretty sure nobody touches your request. They get copy pasted, just to be clear. Go ahead, Councilman Forstall.
Okay, thank you. This might have been, so I know but the art committee met earlier last week, I think, and I believe I got their minutes, and I thought I read it in here that they are kind of working on this already. So when this art commission started, my whole goal was to get some kind of statue, to get some art in Kyle that you can stand by and that you can take a picture. I don't know what I want that to look like, and I would like it to be in specific areas. I know if you go downtown Austin, or even in the city that I went to college, Iowa City, you have different statues you would go find and take pictures with it. And so it brought in a little bit of tourism. And my hope was that council would be a little bit interested in doing the same thing, just adding some, when we went to, where did we do it? Was it Frisco? It was some city that had, maybe Carmel, had a ton of statues. And so I was hoping the council would be interested in wanting to do the same. And they may be working on it, but just to be clear, I want to make sure that they understand that we are looking for this kind of art too. When I sat in the meeting, it was a lot of art discussed that had to do with like theater, which I love, and drawing, which I love. Nothing permanent though. I do like the art out here in the halls, but I know they're doing like a chalk drawing. But I would like to invest in some assets.
I agree with you.
Okay.
100%. And I think that was the vision for the Arts Commission when we initially created it, is that we wanted to see art proliferated throughout the community. So I'm just expressing.
I remember that conversation, and I remember Councilmember Coach was like, so do we have to buy it in Texas? Can you buy it all over the U.S.? And I was like, I didn't even think about that. But I wanted it to be everything from everywhere. I
Right.
want our city to have murals and to have all these things that people want to come and just look at even. So, yeah, I would like to give that direction to the Art Commission to research the costs, the types, and locations of a statue to place within the city of Kyle.
So is statue too narrow?
Oh, maybe it is, so.
Because
Or
what
we
I
wanna
hear
do
you
like
saying
Hendrix
is
did.
that we want to make sure that the Arts Commission is focused on recommending art projects, physical art projects
Right.
for us. So a statue, like for example, that's exactly why I was bringing it up in front of Ms. Westbrook about an idea for an art project, at the last meeting with Blas and Sam Tenoyo and the stonework from 104 South
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Burleson. Right, to me, that's something I want them to spend time on, is because we don't necessarily have time to figure out how to do that, but there could be a statue involved in that. It could be, but it doesn't have to just be a statue.
Right,
It could be,
any
some kind of landscape architecture project with a plaque or something that, it doesn't have to be statue, is what I'm saying.
Right. So what kind of verbiage page do you think we should use to keep it broad enough? Art pieces?
Art in general, because that was gonna be my suggestion. I wish that, and I'm sorry, like I can talk without being called, but it would be awesome if the Arts Commission had a list of already art pieces that we would like to acquire, whether we have artists here in Kyle that wanna build something beautiful. And then I feel like every developer should be buying an art piece.
Yeah, no, I agree.
We're definitely investing in art pieces, but that's,
And
to me,
works
that's
of
what they're,
art.
so the
Works
budget.
of art.
The budget that they were requesting, and I can't remember exactly how that conversation ended up, but to me, the budget, if they have a budget or monies that they're like trying to operate within, it should be an art budget, not an events budget. It should be, this is the money that we want them to spend on art. Mayor Pro Tem.
Right.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry. So I guess could your item, Ms. Forskel, coincide with agenda item number 33, when it comes to the Arts and Cultural Commissions, where we're wanting to see what their new goals, such as new projects, future activities, and any kind of grant possibilities, which could include statues or murals? Could that coincide together?
So I want it to be specific to art pieces.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I think we can, but I'm just saying, like, the one that they're looking into is a sculpture on the east side, but I want to know for all of Kyle. I want to know for downtown. I want to know for Plum Creek. I want to know for even areas by Amberwood. Like, I don't want it to be specific. I want us as a council to decide, oh, yes, this is a great mate. We get 5 options, and we choose 3, instead of just doing one in one location.
Roundabouts, centerpieces. Downtown Georgetown
Yes.
is
Oh, yes.
full of art.
It's true.
And I don't know if they have a commission that puts that forward, but I'm betting they do. I'm certain that it could be like a downtown alliance or something, but there's clearly a committee's work behind that.
Yeah, and we pulled over. Like, it was a roundabout, but you could pull over and take a picture with it. Like, that roundabout was well done. Okay, so I didn't make a motion before, did I? Okay, so I'm going to make a motion now to direct the Art Commission to research costs, types, and locations of works of arts to place within and throughout the city of Kyle.
Motion by Councilor Flores Kell, second by Mayor Pro Tem Tobias. Is there a discussion on that motion?
Could we add something along the lines for them to have a list of, like, their wish list on art pieces that they would like to have, so that way whenever there is some sort of approved budget, or if we were to, like, I would love to see if a development comes to Kyle, for them to have a space to display art, and maybe that particular developers could buy the art piece, so we know, okay, this isn't the list for them, this is a wish list, and we can cross it. I don't know, it's just a thought, it might be a different motion.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries 6-0. Next up, agenda item 37, considering possible action to cost share 2 additional PC streetlights at Simon Middle School between Hays CISD, Hays County, and the city of Kyle, not to exceed $2,500. Councilman Zuniga.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. So I did have 2 images to show. So this has been kind of a discussion for several months that I've had with the county, Inglesby, Michelle Cohen, And also the HCISD, forgot the Max Weaver. So over on 150, PEC has looked at adding more streetlights. They said that they could add 3 of them free of charge at Hemp Hill, but in order to add 2 at Simon, they need a transformer. So the cost is $5,000, but that could change as prices change. And the school district and county asked if we could maybe cost share it. And if you look at the images, there's supposed to be poles there. You can't see the poles at night. And it's even a safety issue because there's a stop sign there. And after school, in the evenings, you just don't see traffic very much. So would council be willing to cost share with the county and the school district?
Yes.
Not to exceed 2,500.
So my only question is, so you're saying that this has already been agreed to by the school district and the county?
They're waiting for response just to see if we're willing to cost share.
Oh.
I just have a question to see if there are any other schools that are gonna be in need of lights, and then will we need to go share the cost for all of them? Because I know that you're close to Simon Middle School, but I don't know what other schools are gonna be in need of lights. So I would say I will need that information before, just to see if this is going, if moving forward, we're gonna need to look into the other schools that are within the area that we're gonna have to be sharing lights. Like if we're gonna do it for one, we should do it for all, if they are in need of lights. So how did you know that they needed lights?
They did a study, and then based on the demographics and the growth, they know that that's an area that needs to be improved on.
Did you look into the other schools to see if they were needing
They
lights?
seem to be well-lit, most of the elementary schools, because these are the ones furthest out into our city limits. And a lot of the residents over there, their kids go to Simon and Hemp Hill. So we have a lot of city residents.
I will need to see the other schools before I approve this, though.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Knowing that my son went there many, many years ago, I'm not debating how dark it is, because it is dark out there. But it is 150. Is this part of also something that TxDOT could be responsible for? And if we're looking in the future for improvements on 150, is this something that that could be in the works already? Or is it just that we need a light right here by this exit because it's dark for people to get in and out of? And we went to the county says, yeah, we'll do it. You guys pay half, we pay half. But then again, do we have the approval of TxDOT?
TxDOT gave it's not on the right-of-way, and it's private property school, so TxDOT knows about it. Willie knows about it. Willie has looked at it, he said it was okay. The commissioners say it's okay. They just want to know, are we willing to work together on this? It's less than $5,000. PEC's paying for putting in the transformer.
So I just say for me, and I know Councilor Flores-Kell's itching to go to, but for me, I just want to say, I think this is fantastic.
I
So,
mean,
and the reason
I'll
I
make
say
up the money difference if we have to.
well, no, the reason it's great is because of the work you did to get the collaboration and the
Right.
cost sharing from our partners out there. To me, anytime there's a proposal that includes county and school district support financially in particular, that's great. So I'm happy to support this. Councilor Flores-Kell.
Thank you. So what I learned in my little time here on council is that on 150, if the lights are facing 150, those are TxDOT. If they are within, that's private property. So that's how you can tell the difference. There's no way I would ever, I don't care where this was, if we were gonna put in extra lighting anywhere in the city of Kyle and any schools, and we only had to pay $2,500 or even the $5,000, sign me up.
That's exactly
Sign me
my
up.
point. I'm a yes on this anywhere, anytime.
Yep, this is not about, I mean, this is a very dark road, but all that aside, this is collective working. This is what we're supposed to be doing. We get with the school board, we get with the county, we work together. I totally appreciate it.
Yes, yeah. And then, like I said, my argument is not against it. Like I said, I've been out there before. Just didn't know if it was fall under the responsibility of TxDOT. But if it's county and if it's private property and you've already done the work, then
You're right.
So be it. Yeah. So Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to go ahead and approve the agenda item number 37 as written.
Second.
All right, motion by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilor Zuniga, that we approve agenda item 37. Is there discussion on the motion? Mr. Hendrix.
I just wanted to add that Scott Egbert, our street division manager, reached out to PEC this afternoon, and PEC is already working on the design for these lights, and they're working on a design for 4 lights, and that cost will be right at $5,000.
Awesome.
Even better.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries 5-1. All right, next up, agenda item 38, discussion of possible action for the proposed East Side TIRZ to include but not limited to proposed retail. Councilor Florescale.
Mayor Mitchell, I'd like to postpone my item if that's okay, to a later date, not.
You want to do it? You want a motion and do a date certain?
Yeah,
Or do you
date
want to?
certain. I don't want to do a
You can always
date
bring it
certain.
back anytime.
Yes,
All
yes. I'd just like to postpone. I'd like to make a motion to postpone agenda item number 38, please.
Okay, second. Motion by Councilor Florescale, second by Mayor. Is there discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, next up is agenda item 39, possible action to rescind vote regarding relocation of Fire Station Number 1. Councilor Parsley.
Mayor Mitchell, I'd like to call a point of order, please.
Okay.
The city's charter states that Robert's rules will be in effect during all meetings. But however, Article 3, Section 305 of the charter provides the city council may determine and define the rules of its proceedings. Our current rules of council do not allow for matters that were approved with at least 4 votes of council to either be rescinded or brought back at a later meeting.
I'm gonna overrule, and we can take it to an appeal on the same basis as the last item. I do believe it's correctly stated. We did this exact song and dance for the exact same reason at the last one. So I believe that I think it's the spirit of the rules to allow anyone who voted with the majority to reconsider their vote. So do you want to appeal and take a vote?
I'd like to say I want to appeal because we need to be consistent. We're either going to follow Robert's rules, which has 318 pages and is in my Amazon, and I will gladly read and figure out every rule, or we need to go with the rules of council, which derives from the charter. It gives us the authority to make our own rules, which specifically deals with this kind of vote.
All right, well, it's the same as the last one, so we'll do a roll call vote, and a yes vote allows for Councilmember Parsley to reconsider or rescind her vote. No vote sustains the point of order, just keeping in mind that we had this at the last meeting as well, so I also want us to be consistent.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Bradshaw? Aye. Tobias?
Aye.
Zuniga?
Yes?
Parsley?
Aye.
Heiser's absent. Florescale?
Nay.
All right, point of order is overruled. So Councilmember Parsley.
Okay, so I would like to start by saying that, as many of you know, I'm a huge supporter and advocate for law enforcement and first responders, and doing what I believe is best for residents and our fire department is one of my priorities. I feel I'm guilty to have voted for this item with lack of information. I did not do my research, and I think it's only fair that after finding out that the fire department board members were not aware or notified of these possible changes, and I spoke to them the very next morning, also not taking time to reach out to downtown residents, which emailed me the very next morning to express the dissatisfaction of us approving this possible relocation. They felt that we did not consider the impact it was going to take over downtown to the residents and to the business and future businesses coming to downtown. I feel like if the fire station needs space to move their trucks, it's only fair we look into options to accommodate their needs without relocating and almost an almost new fire station. I learned this fire station is not like more than 12 years old or something like that. I also have concerns about how the item was brought up. I know Councilmember Flores-Kell said she reached out to the fire chief to ask questions about the development that passed last meeting. And sadly, because the question was asked, none of the residents or myself got to hear any of the findings about the fire chief and the Woodmere development. So a development that later on I found out donated to the fire department. And I don't know if everybody else in council knew about that. So that being said, I would like to make a motion to rescind my vote about the relocation of fire station number 1.
Well, I'm sorry, the motion to rescind the vote, you're saying you want to,
Like I'm
you're wanting to cast a
not
different
one.
vote, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to have to make a motion to,
deny the relocation.
well, okay, so I'm trying to think this through.
Okay.
Here we are, we're in the quagmire. So I understand you want to change your vote.
Yes.
But, you know, for one thing, the motion from the last meeting was to direct staff to just continue to have conversations.
Yes.
And so for the reason that you're saying you don't want to have conversations because you don't have enough information, I don't have
Exactly.
enough information to go with what you're saying.
I understand.
And the point is, we're having a very public conversation about something that's not fully baked. And so conversations already were taking place with the fire department, and no one has a plan that's been proposed. I personally don't want to tell staff to stop having the conversation when we don't know whether or not there's something valuable there or not. So all of that being said, if you want to make a motion, it would need to be, it would need to be to rescind the direction, and then we can see.
Given the last meeting.
Yes, so that would be the motion, to
Okay.
rescind the direction.
I'd like to make a motion to rescind the direction that was given to staff during the last meeting about the fire station number 1.
Second.
All right, motion by Councilmember Parsley, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem to rescind the direction from the last meeting's vote. Is there discussion on that motion? Councilmember Flores-Kell.
Thank you. I have a ton of concern because I think we need to stop flip-flopping. I think this is going to scare developers, and I don't think it's very professional that we keep going back and forth. My main issue with this was nothing more. I can read it right now. Discussion and possible direction to allow staff to work with the Kyle Fire Department to discuss the potential relocation of Fire Department Station Number 1, and then I put where it's located. Now, let me be clear. I thought I was helping the fire department. When we were talking about Woodmere and then Chief brought that up, I was like, well, he showed up, he talked about it. I had no idea about what was going on behind the scenes. I only thought I was doing them a favor. And let me tell you, A, this makes me only want to talk about things in executive, which I'm not going to do. But B, it was totally not worth the stress. It was so much miscommunication. It was so many conspiracy theories. Like, I had people saying, oh my God, I heard the city bought the fire department. And I was like, hold up. This is not federal. This is like little city Kyle stuff. How is the scare tactics going into effect? I don't know. But because of that, there's no way I'm going to allow, I'm going to vote for a rescind because I don't think it's appropriate for the reason and for the fact that I think we need to be consistent for nothing less than our developers.
All right, is there any further discussion, Mayor Pro Tem?
Okay. It is true, we are growing, and East Kyle is going to be the next big area of development for our city. With that, I do understand that there will be a need for a possible new fire station. There's one already on Bunton and Creek, and there's also possibly another one that might be proposed up in up in Precinct 2 area that could be looked at as well. I think what threw me off was again, according to the agenda item, was to discuss the potential of relocation of Fire Station Number 1. Fire Station Number 1. And I have to go back, and this is no disrespect, like I said, this is no disrespect to anybody here on council and anybody here that's serving, but this goes back to where you got to know the history of your city, of your little town. I can remember the little fire station where it's at now, that one day that we would eventually have our own fire station. I can remember some of the volunteer firemen back in the day, whenever that big siren would go off, that locals would grab their fire hoses and throw them in their trucks and respond to fires wherever it was, whether it's green pastures and so forth, right? That's how it was, that one day that the fire station would have their own facility. I remember a time when they were doing a fundraiser just to get a watercraft boat. I can't remember if it was a bake sale or a barbecue plate, but that just goes to show the history of this fire station. And so when when they had the grand opening, I remember being there and how excited everybody was about fire station number 1 finally being developed to where we had our own station, we had our own trucks, and it was a very exciting time. So it just threw me that whenever I did have the chief come up there and they were talking about relocating fire station number 1, it just threw me off because it's like, wait a minute, we just built that thing about 12 years ago. So why all of a sudden the change? So again, I understand that there is going to be a need for another fire station, possibly east of Kyle, but it just, on my end, it really threw me for a loop that the actual downtown station want to be considered moving. And that's kind of why I asked the questions with the chief, and not to put him on the spot. He's a great man, and I commend him for everything that he does, and the firemen. It just threw into questions that the whole idea of actually picking up the entire fire station that was just barely built, being moved to another location, whether it's West Kyle or a little bit further down the road off of 150. And so that's kind of where, on my end, where I was the only no vote, because I wanted to make sure that all of those on the fire board was fully in support of this, and I didn't get that vibe. So that's kind of where I stood on that.
Councilmember Zuniga.
Yeah, so I'm hear what everybody is saying, and I agree with very good points. My only concern is that when I read this one, it was just to direct staff for possible discussion to look at something. So the concern is that nobody up here is saying that they won't support our first responders or fire department if we ask questions. So I don't think that we have to have a false choice. It's okay for us to ask questions of every organization and group that provides services to our city. So this is just get some information, see what's out there. So that's all I have to say about that.
All right. Any other discussion? The only thing that I will add is, to me, this is an example of when an item that has the potential to be misinterpreted in the public very easily. That's why you don't necessarily bring it forward the way that it got brought forward. Staff was already having conversations, so the only direction was to tell staff to keep talking. And now, but the difference is by bringing it up on the dais, it publicized it, and the next day you're getting feedback without us even having a plan. So we can't even respond. So I do want staff to continue having the conversation, because the little bit that I heard, I thought was pretty interesting about the possibility of working out a land acquisition deal to get them out of a place where they don't really fit, and moving them. Now, how that gets accomplished, I don't know, but I heard maybe staff might be able to come up with something. So I wanted to hear what they could come up with, and that was just as far as I was willing to take it. So I still support that conversation taking place. I just wish we weren't having to have this conversation 6 months too early on the dais. So, all right. I guess we'll roll call vote. So the motion to rescind the direction, so an aye vote rescinds, a nay vote allows the conversations to continue.
You will be rescinding my vote only, correct?
No, this is,
Okay.
the item is to rescind the item, which is why Mayor Pro Tem is seconding.
Heiser is absent. Tobias?
Aye.
Parsley?
Aye.
Flores Kale,
Nay.
Mitchell,
Nay.
Bradshaw,
Aye.
Zuniga.
Nay.
All right. Motion fails, 3-3. There's your clear direction. All right, next up, agenda item number 40, discussion regarding fiscal year 2023-2024 budget development calendar. Mr. Hendrix.
Mayor, Council, for the record, Jerry Hendrix, Interim City Manager. As we move into spring means one thing for staff, and that's the onset of budget season. So typically by now, we would either have had our visioning workshop or be preparing to have our visioning workshop. And we would use that to frame how we approach department heads to develop their budgets. So not knowing when we're going to have that, the need to start having department heads develop their budgets is still coming up. So Pervez has helped me develop a draft calendar that I'm going to try to share here. Haven't used Ring Central in a long time. Okay, so you can see on the screen the to be determined part is the visioning session that has been postponed till we have our new permanent city manager. Typically the middle of the month, and in this calendar it's March 13th. The city manager or interim city manager in this case would go to the department heads and relay the council's priorities and wishes for the next budget and have discussions with them about framing their budget request for next year to meet those priorities and wishes. And the deadline for submitting those would be the middle of April. And then at the end of April is when we get chief appraisers certified primary estimates for property valuations. As we move forward into May, we would start having our work sessions. And the first of those work sessions would be to present the department director's uncut budget request. And then it goes on from there. Most of you are familiar with the process. So what I'm asking from council is a little bit of direction on how we can proceed to not fall behind in our development of the budget for you without having formal discussion on what your priorities and wishes are for next year's budget.
My initial feedback is that I think your schedule is pretty good. Now, whether we obviously we're not going to have a visioning workshop by March the 13th, but it's still my hope that depending on, and we're going to know more probably in a month about where we stand with city manager applications and those kind of things. I think we would be trying to have, even if it's a truncated visioning workshop, some kind of meeting with the new city manager as soon as they're hired, but we just don't know what that time horizon is until the window closes and they have a chance to get sort of their mind around it. But you're saying April 14th for directors to submit their budget needs. I think that makes sense. April 28th we get, and then it's not till the 13th. I think all those things can pretty much just stay in order. And if we're able to have more conversations with a new city manager ahead of that, then so be it. And if we haven't gotten a city manager hired, we have to keep the city moving forward. So I think that's a fairly decent plan, but you have to keep it open-palmed, understanding that as we're getting ready to hire our new chief executive, there may be some alterations that get made, but
Understood.
we can handle that. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, that brings up a great question about the timeline on our city manager applications.
Deadline for, it's an open window right now, and it
Yes.
closes at the end of February. So
Yeah.
they're waiting till the end of February.
End of February.
And then they've already outlined it in their proposal, but.
Yeah, because that was my number one question was, why, I think we started the last 2 years back in April, if I'm not mistaken. Our first one was in April, or was it always in May?
The first work session could be in April or May,
Okay,
but
But
we've
it-
kind of pushed it back a little bit,
Yeah.
given the situation. But I think it's pretty important that the staff be given enough time to really
okay,
look forward to what their needs are going to be so we can start developing those numbers.
okay. Because that's always been my thing is that, I'm always by particulars, once we hit the 6 month mark of the half of the year, is where we should see where we're at. I guess with me, I'm just getting antsy with the budget and the finances to see where we're at, like where our general fund is and so forth like that. But again, we have variables, like what Mayor Mitchell says. We have our city manager we got to look at. We still got the visioning workshop that we got to maybe try to squeeze in there. For me personally, if this is the schedule that you got and you're giving your directors a little bit more time, then that's probably what we might need. But my biggest thing is always been is that we really need to get a city manager. We need to hire somebody so that way we can go forward with the rest of the year, and especially to be able to help with this to see the goals of the city.
Can I make a quick suggestion for the Saturday, May 13? Because that's going to be Mother's Day weekend. And I don't know if anybody else is leaving town, but I may.
This is still draft.
Okay.
And you can bring your mother. But I will send this out to council.
That was good.
Okay.
That was very good. Well done.
I'll send this out to council, and you can provide your feedback. We'll make some adjustments based on that, and then send a final draft out for your review.
Okay, awesome.
Anything else? All right, we do still have one item for exec. All right. Before I do that, the consent agenda, I'm being told, we vote because we had a kind of a weird situation with the end of consent. We took a vote and then had some conversation. I didn't actually call for the nay votes. So I just want to ask, on the consent agenda, does anyone vote nay? And seeing none, the vote passes for the consent agenda 6-0. Is that good enough? All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Paige.
All right, so we're going to go back and do exec. Pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, City Council reserves the right to convene to executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during the meeting. Council may convene to exec pursuant to any lawful exception contained in Chapter 551 of Texas Government Code, including any or all the following topics: pending or contemplated litigation, or seek advice of the city attorney or attorneys concerning legal issues pursuant to Section 551.071 Texas Government Code, Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct for the following matters: 104 South Burleson. That's the only one, right? Just 104 South? Okay, we're in it.
I thought there was a personnel matter.
No, I just wasn't sure if we had any more of the economic development items, but I don't see Victoria even here, so I'm pretty sure we got them all covered. All right, thank you. In executive section, there will be no action taken now. Motion to adjourn. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.